Welcome, friends and fiends, to the Red Death Mask stream. Today, we are here to do what we always do, which is read online horror story. I'm gonna give a little bit of an intro today, just because I know I have a few new subscribers and maybe people watching videos who have never watched any of my streams before, but basically, we are going to read stories from the Tales from the Creeps, Creepcast, fan story subreddit. And why, you might ask why I do this every stream, or why, I'm doing this. I've been doing this. So I've been doing this for probably over a year now, in some capacity. I started on Twitch. Um, I was reading horror stories from Creepcast submissions and just the regular Creepcast subreddit, as well as other subreddits around, no sleep, stuff like that. And really, the reason that I kept doing it is because I've continued to notice how many stories fall through the cracks, or how many stories wind up being good after I read them, but don't have many upvotes or don't have much engagement at all. So I'm simply just trying to do my part to engage with the stories and the authors and the artists, really, that make up the Creepcast community and just around the internet. And as much as I love YouTube videos and like ARGs and like horror series on YouTube, I feel like there's a lot of really good stuff uh that doesn't get as much love. It's just because it is the written format. And so that's kind of what I like to focus on. I do watch some horror, short films and stuff from time to time. But for the most part, we want to at least on my channel, I want to just celebrate authors and people who maybe otherwise wouldn't get, talked about much, or wouldn't just wouldn't have anyone to read their story. I think that yeah, it's valuable. I think that it helps. Every writer can get better, and every writer can just find a lot of fulfillment and value from just somebody reading their story and enjoying it. Um, and so that's my main goal, is to just read it and react to it, and have some fun, and hopefully better myself as like a writer and just a creative person too. And yeah, help build, now that we finally have an official subreddit for stories for Creepcast fans, Tales from the Creeps. My plan's just to, be a part of that community. So that's really all we got going today. Here, I'm gonna put on some lo-fi music, and then hopefully it's not too loud. We'll see. I'll listen to my live stream here in a second. But yeah, maybe we could and then we will in the future, not on today's stream, but in the future, I plan to, have authors on, and talk about stories too, and do stuff like that. So yeah, that's really my main goal here on the Red Death Mask channel. Perfect. So I just received word back to from the mods. So this post that I posted in Tales from the Creep called calling all authors, this post is now locked. That's simply because it got so much engagement. There are so many stories now that I have to parse through and go through that I wanted them to lock it just so that I could put a cap on it and start trying to organize, and because I have a document with most of the links and stories in it, but that's the issue is I'm going through the document now and I'm cross-referencing it with the post, and you know, there's some that are missing or some that I'm not sure of, and so I just find that it'll be easier if this post is now locked. So I'm sorry if other people were wanting to maybe post their story on it. You know, it was up for about 12 days, so you know, well, it still is up, but it's just locked. So I apologize but that doesn't mean that, you know, I'm not gonna call for stories in the future. It's just that for all the people who did post their stories on there, I want to be able to see them all and get to them all, and you know, as people post new ones, it just gets harder and harder to manage. So that's why. But thank you to everyone who upvoted and commented on it. You know, it's got like over 130 comments, so that's amazing, and I appreciate everyone doing that. Now here, let's go check out this music. Not bad. It's not too loud, at least. Maybe it'll get there. Let's see. That's pretty good. I want it to be just loud enough for you guys to hear it. I wish I could hear it too, but such is the nature of streaming, I guess. Yeah, because I hate streaming in a quiet room. I really don't like it. Wish I could have. Maybe if I just got another speaker or something and just played background music, it'd be fine, but then I'd risk picking it up on the mic, but oh well, doesn't matter. So here, let's get into the docket for today, the stories that I plan on reading. Number 1 is called Hellspawn from, I want to say, loressadev. And I think in the post, in the comment that they posted, they said it was horror comedy. It says Elder Gods up here, so I don't know. I'm interested to see. I've been wanting to do more horror comedy, so we'll see. And then next we have I'm an underground doctor at Mr. J's workshop. You know, seems definitely like I'm a cashier at a half price voodoo shop esque story, and that I dig. I dig that story. I liked Tales from the Gas Station too. So I was eager to check out this one. It is a multiple part. I think there's at least 2 parts. So far today, I'm only gonna commit to reading part 1, but if I end up loving it, maybe we'll cover part 2 on the next stream or something like that. And then we have from that is from I'm an underground doctor at Mr. J's workshop from a possible display 891. Then we have A Fly on the Wall. This is sort of a shorter one from Chicken Milk. And then last but certainly not least, we have Clever Boy from Affectionate Leave. And shout out to them. They did the artwork for the thumbnail. So they're a very talented artist, and show them some love. If you haven't, follow them on Reddit. They do. They're a writer, and they do amazing artwork too. So shout out to them. Yeah, so that's pretty much all that we've got in store for today. Maybe, who knows, if we get through all the stories, maybe we'll do more. There's never. I just always have an outline of like a few stories that I really want to try to get to. Sometimes I don't even get to them all, but then who knows, after that it's kind of just a free for all, so we shall see. But let's get into loressadev. Okay, yeah, loressadev. Let's get into Hellspawn. I'm already wondering, the first words are midnight trolls, and I'm wondering if this just means like, people who stay out late, or are these meaning like literal trolls? That would be cool. I've had some fantasy horror and or not even fantasy, but just like historical horror kind of this. If there were trolls, it would be fantasy horror, but I'm finding that I like it. And really quick before I start the story, I want to say that I've been listening to some literary RPGs. Like the series that comes to mind is like the Rise of Mankind. Yeah, Rise of Mankind by Jez Caccio, I think. And obviously it's like it's got video game. It's a book, but it's got like video game elements. Like in lit RPGs, usually it starts off by somebody is either just thrown into like a new universe where they have like some sort of a display where they see that they're like a character with levels, or our world, meaning planet Earth, gets changed into a world in which people have levels and there's mana and all this stuff. Anyways, the reason I bring that up is because despite it being like a literary RPG, whatever, Oblivion type like book where things are about magic and upgrading your class and doing all this stuff. There have been some really cool horror elements in some of these books, just like in terms of like around the graveyard. So the world changes, right? And then these graveyards, like the dead just start rising, right? Because the mana that's now been infused with the earth. And so you have like that, and those are just the basic like undead they're just classic zombies. They're not really fast or anything. But then you have some like vampire offshoots of the undead, which are just your typical vampires. But then it described this one thing in the Rise of Mankind universe called the Eidolon. And this thing sounded fucking terrifying. It's like a child monster. I don't know if I'm spelling it right. But it's like a child with yeah, see, and I'm probably not spelling it right at all. Mythical beast. And yeah, it essentially is like a child's face, and it like mimics the voice of a child, and okay. Yeah, okay. It's a look-alike for a dead person, right? For a living person. Well, yeah, anyways, in this particular iteration of it in the Jez Caggio book, it's a child, and it either takes in like the souls of children, either dead children or living children, and it like feeds on them. But it also just feeds on like dead souls in general, as well as living ones. It just kills them first and then feeds on like the death. Role playing. Okay, yeah. See, so they're in like D&D and stuff, but and anyways, it was a really, the way the book described him, it was like really horrifying, and they have these big giant like arms and legs, and they're like crawling on the ceiling and shit. But then the face turns, and it like, I don't know, like almost tucks its head down into itself, and then it's just the face of like a little kid, and it's like, hello. And it tries to lure people in that way. And there was like this one part of the book where someone had lost a child or whatever, and they were like, I hear her, she's in the church, or, and they were like, do not go in that church, But yeah, I guess my point is, the more I entrench myself in like horror elements and horror stories and just reading horror, the more I'm seeing horror in every other genre, and I think that maybe that was just because I avoided horror for so long that I kind of just didn't think about it. And, that's a common thing. Like, once you learn about something, you start to notice it everywhere. That's a common, whatever, occurrence type thing. But I do have to say that, like, I'm realizing more and more that horror can be anything. And as I read, all these stories and stuff, they can go in so many different directions that I don't really see myself. I know some people would be like, oh, all you do is read horror stories. Like, doesn't that get boring? But it only gets boring if all the stories are boring. You know what I mean? There's a lot, and they all seem to go in such different directions. And even if some ideas and stuff are repetitive or pretty like tropey or classic horror ideas, this community is really good about putting new twists on things. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing inspirations of stuff that I've seen before, but I'm never just seeing like straight up copies. You know what I mean? So there's been a lot of cool stuff thus far, and I just wanna, I just want to bring that up because I know, I think for me as a writer, it's easy for me to think like, well, I don't want to just write horror stuff, right? Like, I have a long list of stuff that I want to, try to tackle someday, or that I want to write. But yeah, the more getting into this, the more I'm thinking that yes, I don't want everything I write to be all about horror all the time, but I do think there's room for horror elements to be, or elements of like mystery and stuff to be woven into certain stories that I never thought would go that direction. I'm now asking myself like, well, what if you had a fantasy that, like esque story, but it kind of centered around a mystery, like a lot of mystical, unexplainable stuff happens in fantasy books. So like, what if you took, like you had a ranger or something who was like trying to take there were disappearances in a village, and you just kind of had a story that started there with that very basic ideas. And yeah, it could be a monster, it could be a whatever, but stuff like that. And I it's just giving me a lot of interesting ideas. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. But let's get into Hellspawn from loressadev. Midnight trolls and I gather. Oh, midnight tolls. I totally misread that. I was talking about trolls the whole damn time. Um, but it doesn't matter, because I hadn't started the story yet. Okay, so I can talk about trolls if I want to. No. Hellspawn. Midnight tolls and I. So is midnight tolls a person? Midnight tolls and I gather my robes about me. Face veiled, candles lit, sacrifice bound and ready. The dove shifts, anxiously cooing as it tries to flex its wings, and I stroke its downy chest in reassurance. I am quick and efficient. I am a scholar, not a savage, and so I paint my lines and chant my words, primal ritual pulling me along. I am close. I have become the predator, senses keen. My prey is near. My entire body racks with pain as the summoning commences, and instinct urges my bellow. Knowledge eternal, the secrets which underpin mortality. Reveal yourselves to me. I command you. Okay. Ever said that I. So this is now somebody talking. Ever said that I envy Harry, Sarah? So it's like it's cut off, but I think it's saying never said that I envy Harry, Sarah. I just said his choice. In succubus was impressive. If anything, it's you being bigoted. It's not the Middle Ages anymore. Me? How dare you? After what I endured because of your little stunt with those familiars? Okay, so I'm getting the sense that Sarah is our narrator. So I'm getting. I know it's subtext, but I'm thinking that these are like modern day witch type people, right? And they're kind of arguing, saying it's not the Middle Ages anymore. And they're kind of bickering about their spells or the things that they've done. I don't know, we'll see, but that's an interesting dynamic, right? That's especially with the way uh that it started out, like face veiled, candles lit, sacrifice bound and ready, the dove shifts. It had this like poetic, sinister kind of tone, and then it just switches to them arguing. I like that. I don't fully know why it has to start like mid sentence and be like cut off. I don't know why it couldn't just be like, I never said that I envy Harry, Sarah. And I do feel like the use of Sarah right here is a little bit like, I never said that I envy Harry. I think that it's a little bit like, oh, and I have to add this too so that you know that her name's Sarah. Which I get that like they're trying to tell us the character's name, but I just don't know if there's a more natural doing it right after Harry. I feel like, I don't know, it confused me like the first time. I think this beginning part just confused me, and maybe that's because of the tonal shift too, but yeah, and so like maybe if it was just a full sentence, it would have came off a little more clear, but it's you being bigoted. It's not the Middle Ages anymore. Me? How dare you? After what I endured because of your little stunt with those familiars? What have my efforts wrought? Hearken. It is my parents I see before me, and I recoil at the twisted vision. They speak of darkness with hate, like alien creatures. Envy churns within me for them to have such gifts and have so little regard for their worth. Uh-oh. Great. Now look what you've done. What? What now? What have I messed up yet again? Mother has noticed me. Rage colors her brilliant blush. Anger suits her. And father clearly can't ignore that. Despite their loathing. He hasn't seen me yet, but mother has, and suddenly she squeals like a pig stuck to bleed for a demiurgical offering. That's a cool word. She begins to trot in place and clap her hands gleefully. And then she is beside me, embracing me, shaking me, kissing my cheeks, forehead, all the while screaming over my shoulder at my father. He will make a fine banshee someday. So they seem to be doing some sort of like a summoning ritual. Or maybe like I don't know, a transformation. They're trying to like maybe, and I don't understand if these are actually her parents or whatever, or his, I don't know. The story's not explaining itself. And I do find that as far as online horror goes, a lot of it is very like exposition-y and very explaining me. Like, this is my name, this is where I am, this is what happened. The story starts here. The day was like this, and it's very, whereas this one, it just kind of drops you right in the, I guess the horror, but also the conflict, And that's fun. I like that. Although I feel like there's a lot maybe I'm missing or not fully grasping. I like it because it's making me, it's making me ponder. And you can't just, you have to read this carefully. You can't just like skim through it and be like, okay, I get the gist of this story. So she's making someone, maybe her mother, into a banshee. She says she will make a fine banshee someday. Okay, so now this is the mother speaking, I think. Oh my god, Bill, our baby's all grown up, and you went and got me? Our baby's all grown up, and you went and got me in this stupid fight, and I missed the reveal. Now father sees me. His eyes have that glazed look of something shifting through memories, and then he smiles and claps me on the shoulder. Good job, kiddo, and don't trust your mother. She's a right old bitch. Do not make me tell her about the whole portal incident, okay? Okay? I will. Mother has pulled me back protectively. Father rolls his eyes. The darkness consumes me. And I finally fall to my knees. Veil torn asunder and robes askew. Scream to the sky. Oh my god, what the fuck is going on? Like seriously, what the fuck? They both exchange a look and suddenly burst out laughing. See, this is why I was mad. Oh. See, this is why I was mad. Mom gives Dad a poke. I wanted there to be more hellfire, some sulfur, a core trauma type of theming. Dad shrugs. Girls got enough to deal with learning how to do all the augury. Just leave her be. Excuse me, you knew? My thoughts briefly flashed through all the moments I had thought myself stealthy, all the secrets I thought I had learned, and how. They both blink at my outburst, and then, as if practice, start laughing again as explanations come in interrupted bursts. Honey, baby girl, simulacrons. Another cruise, Bermuda trot. Remember when we summoned that imp to babysit? Well, obviously she doesn't. So it's this girl's like doing a ritual, and then her parents come in on her, and she's thinking that she like found this dark magic on her own, and really her parents are like dark, ritual practitioners as well. That's what I'm getting. Laugh. Now mom is hugging dad instead of me. The sudden absence feels heavy and cold. They smile in unison, and my gut clenches. I shiver. My gut clenches. I shiver. Welcome to the family, dear. My mother purrs, nuzzling up to my father. Is that really what you're going to wear? And could you have even tried to make a hint of effort with your hair? My father snuggles close to my mother and nods. Tanya down in rituals was just telling me all about their Hellspawn. Apparently, she's already got a familiar. They both stare, eyebrows raised and expectant, as it dawns on me what I promised, what vows I made: suffering for knowledge, torture for secrets, pain for truth, enlightenment at any cost. And when are we going to get a grandchild? You aren't getting any younger. Actually, I know a ritual for that. Fate circles, the future snapping at my ankles as my family reunites. I am subsumed. That's just. It's a funny scene, right? It's interesting because she does this like summoning ritual. And her parents just appear, right? And they're like, hey, so good to see you. Like, glad you finally here. We're so proud of you. And it turns out, so I don't know if her parents are dead and she was in the real world, or if this is like all taking place in hell. And they're like, finally, you made it. Like, you came to hell, or whatever, you arose to the point where now, like, we're all on the same level or whatever. It's basically like this funny thing of like, as a kid you might think you're being clever, or you might think that like your parents don't know. So it's the whole thing of like the kid being like coming out to their parents, like having that moment where they really have to like be brave, and they really have to like come out to their parents, and they built it up in their mind as this epic thing, and their parents are like, oh yeah, we know. Or it's that kind of a thing, right? Where they're not really, it's like they're not they're accepting, but they're not accepting in the way that you want it to be, where you want it to be like, I love you no matter what. It's okay. You know, you're my, you're my child and I'll always love you. But instead it's just this total anticlimactic buildup where they come out, and then the parents are just like, yeah, we know, who cares. And the parents are it's kind of that way because she thinks she's getting like eternal knowledge, or she's seeing her parents because she thinks that um I don't know, she thinks that she's raising the dead or something, and the parents are like, finally, you do this. I think the beginning, if it just explained a little bit better, like, my name's this, because I'm still kind of confused about some of these first exchanges, like who they're between and stuff like that. But if it just could have very briefly said in the beginning, like, I've been, and now I'm finally gonna summon, like, I'm doing this summoning spell to like gain knowledge, knowledge of my past, present, and future, or some, just something like that. And then the parents just come and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're eternal beings too, and we've been waiting for you to take your place as our Hellspawn," or whatever. But it's interesting. It's a funny concept, and I like the anticlimactic nature of it. I just think that maybe if I wasn't as confused in the beginning, maybe I would have fell into the like rhythm of it sooner. But that's fine. It is supposed to kind of sideswipe you a little bit. So I think that the character too is interesting of like this girl. Like, I want to know, is she in hell? Is she she's like this dark magic practitioner. Like the part where the dad says, "Oh, we know somebody from rituals or whatever." Like, it sounds like there's like departments in hell or whatever. So I'm just kind of curious about this world. I think that maybe there's room for other stories here, or other amongst these, to just have a normal family dynamic amongst the whatever societies of hell you could call it. I think that's a pretty fun concept. I think that's pretty uh, intriguing. And I'd like to see like the bureaucracy of hell. You know what I mean? Like, just I feel like this would be you know a good. It's kind of like what the good place was, right? It's like, well, they're in heaven at first, and then, oh no, they're actually in hell, or they go to both, and yada yada. I think that this has the same sort of comedic like take on, yes, this dark evil things are happening, but if you summoned your parents or whatever, even from the dead, they're still going to act like your parents, right? They're still going to say, "Oh, well, why? When am I going to get a grandchild?" And that's very like kind of endearing, and just also relatable, and certainly takes the like, yeah, it takes the piss out of the evil demons of the world. And yeah, it's just an interesting concept. It's definitely more like in the realm of comedy, but I enjoyed it. I Like I said, I think there's room for more. I'd like to know a little bit more about this universe, even if it's just in like a rewrite of the same story. Yeah, interesting, cool, funny. I think the mom and the dad, being like, "We had an imp to babysit you," and all this shit. There's definitely more stories there, right? There's definitely like, it's kind of just a flyby, but there's certainly a bigger, longer story going on. Just that little short story. So, can't tell if I'm getting tired or just waking up. I just drank a Red Bull, so I shouldn't be getting tired. But let's see. So next we have, I'm an underground doctor at Mr. J's workshop. If anyone's in the chat, could you let me know how was the music? Um, when I was playing the music, how did it sound? Was it annoying? Did it sound good? Was it too loud? I'm just curious whether or not I should keep playing it. I think it'll be okay. I'm an underground doctor at Mr. J's workshop. It seems I've fallen into a strange profession. Many parents dream of their kids becoming doctors, but I have a feeling this isn't what mine had in mind. Oh, so that was the first sentence, but this story's from Possible Display 819. Oh, and I forgot to send out here. Let me do this real quick. Bear with me. Here. Well, I guess you can't watch Greylock. You can listen to it.
New ground we're charting into. And horror reaction, dare I say we might be forerunners into this new category. Very
no
proud
one's
of
ever
you for
thought of
coming
this.
up with it, Hunter. Very proud.
And if anybody says that they have, I will find them.
They're lying.
Okay?
They're lying, of course.
I'll find them. I'll break them.
But basically, there's a lot of cool horror stuff on the internet. And while on Creepcast, we, of course, love the stories and everything, there's a lot of really cool videos, too. A lot that I cover on my channel. And more importantly, a lot that Hunter has absolutely no idea what he's dealing with. So today, as hopefully with future episodes, I have picked something that I think he will enjoy, that we are going to terrorize him with, and I get to laugh while he's scared, which is really my favorite part about this channel. So,
yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to it. And today we are discussing Greylock. Which I feel like that it's going to be a similar flow as Creepcast here, but the whole thing we learned from Gregory88 and stuff that has more videos is that I feel like we just need to have a catered area to the video stuff, because there's so much video content out there that I feel like we're missing out. So I feel like this way we can try. I'm gonna put this out there, but don't hold us to it. That way we can at least do Creepcast 1 week and then Creep TV the next week, kind of thing. Don't hold that to us. If something that changes, don't yell, don't scream, don't cry. Please.
That is our tentative idea. Will it change? Probably, but theoretically, we'll have Creep TV and Creepcast. And Creep TV, I believe the plan is to just have it exclusively on YouTube because it's video based, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah, it's just a YouTube thing. So no audio platform stuff. So your Spotify and your Apple Podcasts and all that stuff shouldn't be bombarded with this stuff either. This should just be for all of our lovely, lovely YouTube viewers.
Yeah. And plus, it'd be kind of pointless to have like a video reaction audio.
Yeah.
That's kind of dumb. Not that would stop us, but maybe a bridge too far. So we can go ahead and get into it. How much do you know about Greylock?
I don't know anything about Greylock. Really, with YouTube horror stuff, I've witnessed some stuff. I wouldn't say I'm as well versed as you are, for sure.
There we go.
I definitely
sent
know
out the messages to the people whose
stories
stories I'm reading.
Various other things.
Sorry, you just had to listen to that intro where they talk about Creep TV. Let's get back to the story now. But I didn't. It's hard to do it. I got to do it on my laptop, and so I apologize. But here, back to the story. It seems I've fallen into a strange profession. Many parents dream of their kids becoming doctors, but I have a feeling this isn't what mine had in mind. Let me make this clear now, as I've had to repeat it to client after client. I'm not a qualified doctor. I never graduated. I'm not the best doctor. Just the best option you've got. Just the best option you got. So if anyone happens to stumble into the need for our workshop, keep that in mind. It's simple. I don't want any more complaints about false advertisement. I can't exactly blame all our customers, though. When you're bleeding out on the shop floor after being promised a doctor in return for some small fortune, meeting our merry crew probably isn't what one expects. What should have been my first red flag when Mr. J offered me the job was when he called the business a workshop instead of a clinic. When he finally told me what the job was, I thought I'd just be patching up mobsters and victims of drug deals gone wrong. Maybe the odd person who just needed to keep a low radar from the cops and didn't want to risk seeing a regular doctor. we certainly get that clientele, many of which are regulars. Being shot repeatedly tends to be an occupational hazard of those types. We even get the odd illegal immigrant or families who discovered our organs arrive quicker than those on a hospital waiting list. Just got a new batch of hearts for anyone interested, by the way. So this is fun. We're getting the sense that underground doctor, implies some like illegitimate, and then workshop was what I found interesting. But so it sounds like this place does everything from patching people up, whatever, to organ transplants. But that part about the money, something about like get the money for when you're bleeding out on the shop floor after being promised a doctor in return for a small fortune. So they have to pay all this money and they're promised a doctor, and then they get this person who, didn't even graduate. But, I am wondering, obviously that's horrific, getting a new batch of hearts for anyone interested. That's already horrific. But, yeah, I do think that, in the same way Half Price Voodoo Shop and Tales from the Gas Station, I do think this is going to go into the realm of supernatural. Like, immediately I'm like, organ transplants don't even happen that way. Like, even illegitimate ones on the black market, like, they don't have, as far as I know, I mean, I guess maybe they do, but I was like, they don't just get the new batch of hearts shipped in. Like, they kidnap somebody and steal their organ and immediately put it into another person. They would probably hold you captive until the patient was there that was ready to receive your stolen organ. So, but maybe that's what our narrator means. Maybe they mean a new batch of hearts came in. It's just a new batch of people whose hearts they're gonna fucking rip out. And so yeah, this doctor not only is illegitimate or whatever, but if they're the one cutting hearts out of people, they're a murderer too. So, though those folk likely regret stumbling into our establishment after, that's because humans aren't the only kind of people we serve. Here we go. See, as soon as and this will happen a lot, I'm like, a story will be right about to turn that corner, but I guess it's just, I can feel it coming, and so me as a reader, I'm like, when's the other nickel gonna drop? And that's because I can feel the writer building up to it, or the narrator. Also, I want to say that this is a good example of our two different like styles of writing, right? Because this one is very much, it starts out with the things like the line like, I don't think this is what my parents had in mind. I'm a doctor. These are the type of clients we serve. We got a new batch of hearts. It's being very like honest and very, obvious in its approach, whereas the other one started off with the girl just like briefly talking about the ritual, and sure, she was being honest about like, this is what I was doing in the midnight toll and the whatever, but at the same time it just very quickly jumped into like dialogue, and it was a little unclear like who's talking and stuff like that. It wasn't, it wasn't her being like, so this is my hope to complete this ritual and then gain this knowledge from a immortal demon or something, and then it turns out those demons are her parents, you know? Because the story could have still kind of went that way, but instead it kind of just chose to plop us down right in the middle of everything. Which again, I'm not commenting on which one is better. Both are totally fine, and I actually think for a shorter story, the version that the first story had, that Hellspawn had, is better because, yeah, it just kind of drops you into the action, and it's for your reader to kind of parse together and be aware of what's going on and kind of figure it out for themselves. Whereas some of these stories, you know, they take a more classic approach where they're just like, you know, this is where it all started. And yeah, it's just a matter of, you know, your writing style and your pacing and how you want to do it, right? It's just totally a preference. One's not better than the other. But I do think for some stories, they get a little bit too much. Because, like, in the story, not that much even happens, but they are like, you know, my grandpa died this day, so then I went to Maine or whatever, you know, and they kind of tell you and all this stuff, when the story could just start with, like, this scene of, I was at the lawyer's office, you know, and then I found out that I inherited the Dybbuk box or what, you know, so it could just kind of start there. And it's just, again, it's a matter of what you want. Do you want this to seem more like a journal where the narrator wants people reading to really be along for this ride from beginning to end? Or do you just want it to be like a scene that you're just thrown into and then the story starts from that scene? You know, it kind of evolves naturally, almost like a movie playing in front of your reader's mind. Because, you know, and again, it's that idea of, there are some movies that start out with a narrator, with some explanation a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, you know, even that sort of thing. Even though it's not read out loud, that still is essentially the same, like, framing tool or whatever you'd want to call it. But then there's other movies that they just start with dialogue, you know, and it's for you to kind of pick up the pieces of, you know, and yeah, I just, one's not better. One, you know, both can be right for certain situations. I just think that it's an interesting question to ask yourself as a writer. Well, like, let's say I have an idea, I have a concept, but how do I actually want to start the story? Do I want to start with a long, like, explanation of, this was the first day when everything changed? Or do I just want to start with the conversation with the shit's going down, you know? And so, yeah. That's because humans aren't the only kind of people we serve. I've seen monstrous horrors beyond your imagination. Creatures that seem otherworldly. Ghouls who I've had to explain... Ghouls who I've had to explain to that we can't operate on something without a body. Even the odd eldritch horror, looking for me to figure out the difference between them having cancer, or a slight cold. See, this is fun. The idea of a giant building size, like, eldritch tentacle monster coming into a doctor and being like, Is this infected? This is fun. This is fun and funny. Again, we're staying. I feel like at least right now we're staying more in the realm of comedy horror. We're getting kind of a Scrubs for demons almost, or maybe not Scrubs because it's not a hospital, but you get what I'm saying. Like the idea of a human doctor trying to diagnose a ghost or ghoul, and tell an eldritch beast if it has cancer or if it has a slight cold. It's just a funny concept. I like it. I feel like this story, if the first story took place in hell, the Hellspawn one, I almost wonder if this story, I don't know, they almost seem like they could be in the same universe, just tonally, if that makes sense. I know they're from different writers, so it's just, I just think it's, yeah. I had no idea because I never read the stories ahead of time, but I think it's kind of fortuitous that I read both these stories near each other. Cancer or a slight cold. While it was a shock at first, I've become numb to all this bullshit. Do you have any idea what it's like trying to help some Cthulhu motherfucker give birth? Lovecraft couldn't come up with half the nonsense I've witnessed. Oddly enough, medical school only teaches you how to diagnose humans, not these creatures. I've asked Mr. J a couple times if we should consider having a vet, but he insists my knowledge is sufficient. I honestly need to beg him for a raise. I'm essentially paid the same as a regular doctor, but with double the risk and triple the traumatic images. I have to see every night before I fall asleep. Fun fact, monsters have sex too, by the way. So all the usual human shenanigans that end up in human A&E end up in our waiting rooms as well. But now multiply this with their bizarre anatomy, which I have to pray I'll figure out every time. I also say things like waiting rooms, but we don't exactly have a hospital. That would tend to stand out, which you don't really want when you're doing things outside the law. Instead, we operate in an abandoned factory, a pig factory to be exact, where they brought piglets from cradle to grave. Oh God. Other than the odd conveyor belt we use to move heavier patients and some of the old hooks to hold things, most of the old machinery is long gone. There's now just a makeshift reception at the back door with a white foldable table, and then there's my office up some stairs that looks out over the factory floor. From there, we use various blue curtains to section off different areas. Maternal units, operating rooms, cancer wards. You think of it, we have it, just not in a conventional manner. For a simple rundown of an average day, Mr. J gets a client through his through his usual vague, sketchy means. They appear at the front desk with Janet. Our receptionist helps book in. Then they are sent up to me to diagnose the problem. Then, if surgery is needed, we send them to Larry. Pretty smooth running operation, all things considered. Most clients tend to be in and out. Take yesterday, for example. Yesterday, it was oddly quiet, though it never remains that way for long. After all, people tend to appear unplanned at our workshop. A sudden visitor came in with the usual hysterics. I was sitting in my office, roughly 5:30 a.m., looking through some notes I'd made, trying to comprehend the anatomy of a centaur that had come in with a spleen issue. As usual, I was interrupted with a loud bang, bang, bang. This was followed by muffled shouting. I had attempted to soundproof my office a few months back, but it unfortunately always falls short. Gathering the willpower for another day of chaos, I slid out of my chair before making my way over to the door. "What are you doing, lady? This is an urgent issue, eh?" the exhausted voice bellowed. The voice of a loud Italian man echoed. Okay, let me try that again. "What are you doing, lady? This is an urgent issue, eh?" The voice of a loud Italian man echoed through the whole workshop. Down by the receptionist's desk was a shorter mobster in a black suit, clutching his arm, or what remained of his arm. His left forearm was dangling on by some fleshy strings. The bone was exposed for the world to see, and he was bleeding out everywhere. Definitely some kind of shotgun did that damage. The mobsters didn't typically come in with those kinds of wounds. They prefer pistols and machine guns. But I've seen it in many other scenarios involving weredogs who are mistaken for werewolves. "I'm bleeding out here." He really was, everywhere, but Janet was taking her time clicking away at her computer every so often, stopping to fire her nails when stuck on a loading screen. "Fuck you, Janet." "And where does it hurt, sir?" she asked without even raising her head from the computer. "Where the fuck do you think, lady?" Exasperated, he gestured to his whole arm. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how extreme would you say your pain is? Still avoiding eye contact, feeling her nails. "Extreme! Oh, for the love of..." The mobster then heard me descending the stairs and locked eyes with me. "Oh, thank God. Lady, please tell me you're the doctor. I'm not sure how much more I can bear. Of this I can bear," he begged with pleading eyes. At this point, it was clear he was still standing through sheer willpower and determination. I'd seen ghosts less pale than him. As I got to the bottom step, I accidentally slipped out a sigh. "Yeah, that's me, Dr. Morgan. I apologize for my colleague. She's, trying her best." The hint of confusion at the end of my statement clearly gave my uncertainty away. I could see her slightly glare at me with contempt out of the corner of her eye. "I am. It's this damn computer slowing things down. I have asked for a new one on multiple occasions," she hissed back with venom, despite the valid subject of her frustrations. So I'm really liking this so far, because not only is it like just crazy and in the same vein as like Tales from the Gas Station, like zany and surrealist, but at the same time we get like the very real commentary on just like the medical system and how, because everything has to be documented, everything has to be whatever, where is your pain, sir? And it was like, I remember, like, it was, because I was in the hospital with my fiance recently, and it was so fucking annoying having one nurse come in. She's in a ton of pain. She clearly needs some sort of medication, right? One nurse comes in and they'll go, "Okay, yeah, I'll ask the doctor what we can give you. I'll message him right away." So the one nurse is out messaging the doctor, then meanwhile, she's still screaming. She's in pain. She's she clearly is in a ton of pain. And then somebody else comes in because they hear her because we're pressing the call button, trying to get like things to hurry up or whatever. And don't get me wrong, like this was like 5 minutes in between even. So it's like we were giving people time to figure stuff out. We weren't being like overly impatient. But then they come in and they go, hey, what's going on? Sorry, your nurse, she's, and so it's a different nurse. And, and we're just, she's in a lot of pain. We're just waiting on the doctor. We're just hoping, the doctor's put in the order for her, for, pain meds or just whatever. They're going to come look at her, anything. And then this other nurse, which the first nurse has already asked us, well, what's your pain on a scale of 1 to 10? And then this next nurse is, well, what's your pain on a scale of 1 to 10? We're like 11. She's screaming, crying, hitting the wall. Like, can't you see what her pain is? Even if I get it that some people might have a higher pain tolerance, and so they might feel like screaming and punching the bed and be like freaking out. But they have a higher pain tolerance, so they're just kind of like sitting there shaking. And so like maybe it is useful to get people to quantify it with a number. I'm like, you ask this all the time, you've asked us this 10 times. And, at this point it's like, just speed this along. Can we please speed this along? And, some hospitals are better than others, obviously, and no place is perfect. Humans and medicine, I know, is an imperfect science, and so but it's hard not to just feel like totally demoralized and frustrated. And so I'm getting a lot of cathartic, because it is absurdist. Even when you're in those very real situations, it can get to be like completely absurdist, like this story is being. So that's why I appreciate it so much in this absurdist supernatural context, right? Where you got this mobster and his arms hanging off and she's like, where's your pain, sir? It's just a hilarious parody on what the medical system actually is. So I hope it does more of that. And I think it will, just by how it started out. But yeah, I love it so far. I'm very in. I'm in. Is it Morrigan? Dr. Morrigan? I'm going to say Morrigan. I hope it's not just Dr. Morgan, but and from what I've read so far, so we have Dr. Morgan. She's a female doctor. Even though she's not a doctor, but they call her doctor, right? Licensed doctor. Not a licensed doctor, and we've got the receptionist too, Janet. And then we've got the Mr. J, right? I just I'm liking this. I'm liking the cast of characters thus far. To start out with the Italian mobster, it's stereotypical, but it's so fun. Like I'm not bothered by it being just a stereotypical like gangster. I think that makes it more fun. We also don't know what the time period is, so obviously it has a computer, so we have to assume at least like 90s, early 2000. But I feel like this is one of those stories where, you know, we could easily get people like time traveling and whatever else, like it, so it's not going to really matter. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I'm already having a lot of fun, but I do have to go pee real quick. So here, let's go back to Greylock, and I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick.
I'd be like, oh, I've probably seen that before, but I might not know them by name. But Greylock does not ring a bell.
Perfect. I feel like you're really gonna like it. It does some. I mean, we'll talk about it as we get into it, but it does a lot of really unique things with the format, and points towards a kind of horror that I really appreciate, and I think you will too. But yeah, I can't wait for you to be scared. I'm so excited.
I'm excited.
So glad you came up with this derivative idea, just so I could be
Creep. No, not very, very original.
No,
Creep TV is very original.
All right, yeah, Creep TV.
Because no one's also, here's another original. No one ever puts TV.
No one has ever used the word TV.
No. No one's ever done TV after their username before, especially like that, like broken it down. So I just want to say very original. Two things very original. No one's ever done it before.
Especially because the word creepy sounds like Creep TV. That's also original for sure, of course.
I think that it's just kind of cute, I guess. I don't know. We're kind of quirky like that, which is nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Put comments, please make him feel self-conscious. Anyway.
No.
All right. Are you ready to begin Greylock?
I am ready to be completely creeped out.
Here we go.
Creep TV.
On Creep TV. Yeah, it'll definitely stick. Keep trying it. So we now begin with tape 1 back online.
Yes.
Can you hear it okay?
I don't think I hear anything. Is there sound right now?
Yeah. Can you not hear it?
I can't. I don't think I can hear it.
All right, stand by. Yes, immediately into the first one.
Accessing archival storage form, Judy. Data extraction initiated.
All right, I'm gonna help you out here because I'm cheating a little bit. Having seen it, so fatal error, right? Contact on-site technician immediately. System offline.
Data extraction initiated. Data extraction 10% complete.
David extraction.
Data extraction.
Data extraction.
Data extraction.
Shut the fuck up with the data extraction. God. Data extraction. Yeah, I get it.
All right, that's your basic setup.
That's your basic setup. Well, first off, first impressions.
Best thing you've ever seen, right?
Well, what I got two vibes, all right, and I want to throw these at you. Vibe 1.
Okay.
Spooky nanny cam.
Okay.
Right. That's the first vibe I got. I was like, is there going to be a little baby goblin running around at the bottom of the screen? I don't know. I was looking for it. Right. Next thing I was thinking about, and this is I don't feel good about saying this, is I would say like school shooter. Evidence.
Okay.
Does it not read like that, kind of like a library? Kind of remind me of that.
Yeah. I mean, it gives the vibe.
So I was so I kind of was sitting there. I was pulling my collar. I was like, ooh, uh-oh, where are we going here? What is Greylock? Greylock kind of sounds like a movie that would be about a school shooting, right? Greylock.
Yeah, potentially. I could see that. I appreciate that this is where your mind's going, I suppose. So I'll point out a couple things to you. For one, the computer said that the system at a company called Semiodyne, or at least that's the company that the camera was referencing.
Semiodyne.
The camera had been offline, or the security system had been offline for several hours. And when it comes back on, it says that there is a data breach and it's trying to extract the data from something. As our camera flips through all the different rooms, the one room that it cannot access is the morgue. So for some reason...
All right, we're back. And we're back. Picture that with a Kodak. No one in the chat yet, but that's okay. What I get for starting my stream at 3 a.m. But yeah, I'm definitely having a lot of fun with this story thus far, even just in this short beginning. I'm not here. I am. It's this damn computer slowing things down. I have asked for a new one on multiple occasions, she hissed back with venom despite the valid subject of her frustrations. I'm not sure what to think about Janet. From the moment I arrived, it was clear she envied me. Not only was she double my age, but she was also an actually qualified nurse. I'd never seen any sign of competence from her, but I've always suspected that was just her way of protesting being stuck behind a desk. On multiple occasions now, I did ask Mr. J if she could help me, but for some reason he always said no. Well, Doc, are you going to help? The Italian man had started to lose energy behind his questions. I may have gotten a little lost in thought as he had continued to bleed all over the floor, so I went back to pretending I was invested. I inspected his arm for a moment. Yeah, I can confirm that your arm has been shot, I replied. No fucking shit, lady. Are you going to help me here? What? Are all you people insane? His anger refueled his conviction. I considered angering him farther just to keep him from passing out. Look, I don't know how many times I have to explain this to people. I'm just a diagnostician. I just figure out what the problem is. I can't fix it, I explained sternly. He didn't deserve my hostility. It was his first time at the workshop, so he wouldn't have known better. However, it's been 3 years and I still have to give this speech. Honestly, I'm closer to a primary care physician than a diagnostician nowadays, but it's technically what I trained as. Either way, I've had to explain it so many times now. I feel the universe owes me a favor and should just tell people in advance. I gestured with my head to the curtains beside us. Larry will get you sorted. Yeah, Larry will get you sorted. There's a typo here. It should be your. Larry, who the fuck is? Holy fucking shit. Yeah, Larry tends to get that reaction from the more normal clients. We originally started using the word natural to describe our human clients to avoid offense to the supernatural ones, but it just kind of sounded eugenicsy, so we dropped it. Standing over by the curtain with his bloody meat cleaver was Larry, our half fish sturgeon surgeon. So does that mean he has like a fish head? I'm thinking, because I'm like, if he's a surgeon, he's got to have arms, right? He couldn't just be a giant fish flopping around. Larry was actually once a very successful surgeon, but he often conducted experiments on himself since medical boards tended to not be fans of his Frankenstein ambitions. One experiment involved him attempting a head transplant. It went a bit wrong when he dropped his original head and then couldn't find it. Only having a couple minutes till death, he worked quickly and used the leftover head of a mutated fish to replace his old one. He then placed his brain in it, and ta-da, Larry as we now know him. See, what I like about this story is, although it's surrealist, in Tales from the Gas Station, it would just be like, yeah, Larry's a fish, or Larry had a fish head. But because I feel like it's medical based, it's allowing there to be a little bit more room for like explanation, and because of that, it's giving it, it's still like surrealist and absurdist, right? But it's giving it this level of like authenticity where Tales from the Gas Station, sure, some things get answered, like eventually you figure out that that the creature under the gas station is growing these Kiefer plants, and that's why Kiefer keeps coming and getting murdered, and there keeps being repeated dead bodies of Kiefer. So I'm not saying that like that story just was like surrealist without explaining it. Like, it did tie a lot of the parts of it together in some way. But yeah, I guess I just I like that we get the Larry the Sturgeon Surgeon character, and just this brief, it doesn't have to be long, but this brief 1-paragraph explanation. And that in and of itself is, a little micro horror story. But then in the midst of all of this narrative, it's just so much fun. I don't know how to. I think that this story is just gonna be a lot of fun the whole way through. Is it gonna make me like cringe at moments with the comedy and with the wittiness and whatever? Maybe a little bit, but in a good way, I think, for the most part. But then also I don't think it's gonna be like horrific and really build the suspense up in a super dark way. It's just gonna, like, I feel like Half Price Voodoo Shop, like, it had those funny moments, but it kind of built up the horror in a way with like the little girl and her mom and and all that stuff. And so maybe this story will get there too, but I kind of want it to just stay in the absurdist, like, comedy butcher shop slash because I say butcher shop in like the terms of like a shitty hospital. Like, they'll call it, oh, it's just that place is a butcher shop, because people just die or whatever. And I like that. I like that that element tied in with the supernatural is just so much fun. All right, I'll stop pausing to just say I'm having fun, but I do think it's important to note, because a lot of horror stories, or a lot of online horror, like internet stories you read, and they might be great, like super deep, whatever, amazing stories that like resonate with you in an emotional way, but they're not necessarily that much fun. Whereas this is so much fun that I think so often people try to be like epic, or they try to be they try to write like really psychological, interesting, suspenseful, shocking horror. And while I think that is awesome and can be really good, I think that it's just as hard sometimes, or it's just as like entertaining to have a story that's like this, that's just one thing after another, where it's, you get the Frankenstein fish surgeon guy, you get I'm now thinking that Janet, maybe there's some reason why she can't help, like maybe Janet's like a vampire or something, so she's gonna like, she can't be around the patients, although the guy was just bleeding in front of her, so maybe that's not exactly correct, but maybe she is something else, or maybe she kills the patients. Maybe she's like a Nurse Jackie type, or not a Nurse Jackie type. What? Nurse Ratchet. Nurse Jackie is the one that pops pills. Shout out Nurse Jackie. But yeah, and so I think that like yeah, fun horror, although it might not be the scariest shit that you've ever read or seen. I think fun horror is, yeah, it takes just as much talent, I guess, is what I'm trying to say there. One might be hailed as like high literature or whatever, you know. You might have like a pen pal that's like hailed as high literature, but I think our Tales from the Gas Stations or our this type of story, Mr. J's Workshop, I think, you know, it's literature for the person that just wants to read a story and or hear a story where the stakes aren't so fucking high and heartbreaking, you know? And I think that's valuable. I think it's the difference between watching like, you know, an epic heartbreaking movie and then just watching like a fun TV show. You know, both have their place. And this is definitely giving me fun TV show vibes. Orwell. And that's and ta-da, Larry as we know him. Or well, that's what I tell myself anyway. These are just pieced together details I've gathered together over the years. He was a surgeon. Medical boards didn't like him, and he did add the fish head himself, but that's all I know. I like Larry. Despite his inability to speak outside of the odd blob and his somewhat grotesque appearance, he is chill. That's Larry, Janet said, still not looking up from the computer. Don't worry, he doesn't bite because he can't. Doesn't have teeth. I think this was Janet's attempt at being reassuring, but I think our mobster friend was more concerned with the meat cleaver. The mixture of shock and blood loss left our little patient in a state of shock, just mumbling random words. I put a reassured hand on his shoulder. Don't worry, Larry is the best surgeon in the state. Now, you should probably go with him before all that blood loss catches up to you. I attempted to say this in a calm, reassuring voice, though it always comes out monotone and slightly irritated. Will that thing at least be able to save my arm? Will that thing at least be able to save my arm? The man said with a shaky breath. Oh no, of course not, I stated bluntly. If you want, though, we could give you a new one. As you can see, new attachments are Larry's specialty, I said, gesturing to Larry's fish head. At the sight of his reflection in Larry's beady eyes, the mobster put a hand to his brow and fainted in a dramatic fashion. Larry caught him before he fell to the floor. That saves you knocking him out, Larry. You work your magic on our patient. What was his name, Janet? I turned to look at her confused. Didn't get his name yet. I was still working on it, she replied, still filing her nails. Oh, we'll call him John Doe to be safe. Come get me when you're done, Larry. Larry nodded at me. His large fish head weighed him down a bit, causing him to slightly tip each way when he brought it up and down. He then picked up the patient and immediately began to put pressure on the bleeding arm while carrying him to the operating room. As I was walking back up the stairs, something important hit me. Oh, and Larry, I shouted down over the railing. Larry immediately turned to the side turned the side of his face to look in my direction. Don't forget the anesthetic this time. In response, Larry gave a big thumbs up before running off. For the next hour or so, I went back to my notes. I was surprised no new clients appeared. I guess Sundays just tend to be slower. I decided to stretch my legs and walk around to the window of my office. I gazed down at Larry in progress surgery. The mobster was now in a hospital gown with a mask over his face for the anesthetic to keep him under. As I was watching Larry carefully prepare his tools for incision, I noticed John Doe's hand twitch. I tapped on the glass with my knuckle. Larry looked up, slightly slanting up the side of his face to see me. I gestured to the twitching patient beginning to wake up. Larry looked over, and after seeing it for himself, he responded with 2 large thumbs up of confirmation. He then went to correct the mistake. I guess at least he remembered to do it. To do it at all this time, I mumbled to myself. As I went to return back to my seat, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Larry abandon his more delicate instruments in favor of a chainsaw. A few more hours went by. The outpatient had come in looking... The odd patient had come in looking for painkillers and erectile dysfunction pills. Just the usual, but nothing out of the ordinary. The phone on my desk began to ring. Hello? Mr. John Doe's surgery is done. He's in the waiting room, already awake, Janet's voice responded at the other side. Couldn't you have just walked up the stairs to tell me that? She hung up. When I descended the stairs, John Doe was already conscious sitting in one of the waiting room chairs. Larry was looming over him, making him visibly uncomfortable. After a moment of awkward staring, Larry began scrounging through his pockets, causing John Doe to shuffle back in his chair. Larry then slapped on a smiley face sticker on his chest pocket, causing John Doe to jump out of his chair momentarily from shock. This was then followed up by Larry's signature thumbs up before walking away. John Doe looked down at his sticker, confused as I approached. May I now inspect your arm again? Or well, I mean lack thereof? I asked, stumbling over my words. Nice one, Alice. Social interaction has never been my forte. Yeah, right, he managed to push out in a defeated tone. Well, it seems Larry did a good job as usual. I would recommend remaining here so we can keep an eye on you since you lost so much blood, but I doubt you'll want to do that now. I really tried to say it sounding genuinely sympathetic, but I think it came out wrong due to the expression I got in response. I mean, what the fuck is the point, eh? If I stay or go? Or what the fuck is the point, eh? Gangster missing an arm? If I stay or go, I'm nothing now. I'll likely die in the next shootout, he spoke, sounding utterly defeated. He continued, all 'cause my stupid fucking father can't aim for shit in his old age. Was meant to be aiming for a guy across the street and somehow managed to hit me from the recoil. His words changed from self-pity despite practically spitting by the end. Great. People all Great. People always end up dumping their traumatic backstories on me. I'm a diagnostician, not a therapist. For some reason, I decided to try my best anyway. Well, it sounds like your dad didn't mean to. Just an unfortunate accident. I think I managed to sound empathetic that time. Who cares? He's dead to me now. He looked to the floor as he muttered out, Look, as someone whose dad ain't around anymore, you'll regret saying shit like that, I said with a hint of concern and maybe a little irritation. No, I mean literally. I took the shotgun and shot him in the face. Oh. Right, idiot. Right, idiot. I started caring for a second. I forgot most of these losers are nuts. Well, I suspect next time you see me, it'll be in a body bag. Oh, this is the gangster. Well, I suspect the next time you see me, it'll be in a body bag. Thank you for trying to save me anyway. With defeat returning his voice, he stood up. As he arose from his seat, however, Larry returned with something wrapped in a white sheet. John Doe noticed this and turned to look at it confused. Before he could say anything, he removed the sheet. Under it was a gray prosthetic arm. He couldn't get any words out, not knowing what to say. Don't be too happy. You're going to have 2 right arms, since this is all we have at the moment. But we are getting a new order in a month, so return then and we can replace this one, I explained. But even with my kind of money, I can't afford this on top of the surgery, he spluttered out. You don't need to, courtesy of Mr. J. But aren't these really expensive? He spluttered out with surprise. They are. Honestly, I have no idea how Mr. J affords any of our operations. From real to fake limbs, equipment, drugs, medication, even the bills to keep this place running. Half of it he doesn't make our clients pay a dime for, though number one policy of the workshop is never question Mr. J, so I don't. Don't worry about it. As for the surgery, Mr. J will message you the payment details. Larry attached his new limb as John Doe tested it out. His eyes lit up from excitement as he began to pretend it was part of a rocket launcher. I handed him a small tub of pills. You also need painkillers for a bit. Just come refill the pills every 2 weeks and make sure you only take them before bed. Phantom pains are also common, but these won't help with that. Just actual pains. Capiche? I began to usher the mobster out of the workshop as I explained. I was now a bit fed up with this adventure. I still had research on Mothmen to do. Okay, wait. How will Mr. J message me if I never gave my details? He asked, confused. I stopped him by the desk and forced a smile. Trust me, he will find you. He seemed confused by the ominous statement. I just continued to smile and hoped to avoid further questions. I then grabbed a pot on the desk as a mode of distraction. Don't forget a lollipop. I jingled the jar of colorful assortment of lollipops we acquired over the years, most of which are out of date. I jingled it harder to snap him out of his daze. Oh, right. There was a hint of caution in his voice. I think the chaos of our workshop might have made him a bit distrusting. Cautiously, he takes a red lollipop and begins to walk on towards the door. As he was exiting, he looked at his new arm. With a mixture of shock and relief, twirling the lollipop in the new prosthetic, he marveled at its beauty. He then began to strut out the building with newborn confidence. You know, never did get his real name, I said, mostly talking to myself. When I turned to look beside me, Larry had clasped his hands together as he looked off at his patient, proud with a bit of sparkle behind his beady eyes. I couldn't help but let out a sigh as I put my hand on his shoulder. I wouldn't be proud of what we do, bud. I'm 90% sure that guy is going to kill a bunch of people. Larry looked a little saddened at my statement, but understanding. You tossed the arm into the pit yet? He shakes his head. Well then, I'll come with you. Could use a smoke break. Outside the factory there is a large well. Or rather than a well, it's more like a deep pit with a couple of stones to mark the edge of it. Mr. J seems to not make much profit from our business. That's due to our fairly generous salaries, which even still I think isn't enough. So in return for the money he gives us, he has one request. Throw any remains, blood, limbs, bodies, or otherwise down the well into the abyss. The darkness within it seemed to be never ending, as if you were staring at nothingness itself, and it was staring right back at you. Waiting for you to go down there too, one day. Even as we threw the arm down, we never heard it hit the bottom. You never hear anything hit the bottom. As I smoked my cigarette, staring into the abyss below us, Larry looked at me disapprovingly. Yeah, I know. Hypocritical for a doctor to be smoking. This whole gig is hypocritical, though. With a touch of frustration in my voice, I threw the cigarette to the ground to stomp it out. For a second, I stared at the extinguished butt, then to the pit. You ever wonder what would happen if we threw non-living material down there? When I looked at Larry, he just stared, not making a sound. Yeah, best not to ask questions. We then turned to re-enter the workshop. We still had the blood at the desk to clean up and throw down there. So that's a typical day at Mr. J's workshop, existential dread included. Morning, Sully. How you doing, buddy? Though that was a quieter day, I wanted to give you guys the general gist without overwhelming you with information. It's a strange job I've found myself in, with an equally strange boss. The circumstances in which I obtained my job were equally bizarre, though I suppose one doesn't end up breaking the law under normal conditions. My circumstances were probably more peculiar than most, however. I had to drop out of medical school. Notoriously, it's an expensive pathway, and I was never some child prodigy deemed worthy of a scholarship. So when I was given the choice between paying for my mom's medical bills or my degree, it was a tragically easy decision. Death comes for everyone, but he's always been particularly fond of the Morrigan bloodline. To be born a branch of the Morgan family tree would mean a coin flip between premature death or tragedy. My Nana died of breast cancer. Her brother lost a leg to diabetes. My father, one day, when sitting on the patio, keeled over from heart failure. My older sister Sarah lost her battle to leukemia at 10 before I really got to know her. Then my mother had a stillbirth with a little brother I never got to meet. Jesus Christ. This family curse went beyond being hereditary, however. Nana's husband died in a car crash not long after my father's birth. My grandparents on my mother's side mysteriously vanished on a trip to Hawaii. Their bodies were later found holding hands on the shores of Waikiki Beach. The image now forever framed in the minds of the children who found them. Oh, I haven't watched the video yet, but I am gonna watch it. So don't worry, Sully. I am gonna watch it. I was actually gonna maybe I was planning out this stream, but I was maybe gonna message you after it and just ask if I could be allowed to just watch it on stream, watch your video, because I'll just do that, you know. I'll just watch it on stream and react to it on stream, you know. Yeah, I don't. I know I said I was excited to read it or to listen to it, and I still am, but a lot of things, especially if somebody I know online puts them out, I usually wait, because if it's horror related, I'll probably try to do it on my stream, you know. So I don't want it to be spoiled, you know. Sorry, I lost my spot again. The image now forever framed in the minds of the children who found them. Then my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Well, since you read it, this is the thing. Since you read it, what I'll do is I'll watch the video, because then I can give my voice a break, because it's hard reading stories back to back to back. So I've done that before, where if people have narrations of their stories, I'll go and listen to the narrations, and then I'll just pause when I have stuff I want to say about the story, you know. So I'll do that with yours, if that's all right. If you want me to just read it, then maybe I'll do that. But yeah, it probably won't be until I plan out that stream, you know. Then my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. My father was the main source of income in our household. So when he died, my mother had to join the workforce. Minimum wage, however, isn't designed to cover chemotherapy. So when we got the news, the savings my father left for me was our only option. So we're getting into kind of a backstory here. And I like how kind of realistic it turned. It took a serious turn here. And it kind of shows why our doctor here is so jaded. But then also I like, because of the fact that they've had all these tragedies and all these it again is a commentary on kind of like the healthcare system and just how it fucks people over, and how, you know, you don't have the money to pay for treatment and yada yada. And so it's just really like it just adds some more reason as to why this person's so jaded now working at this workshop. Like, they had to drop out of medical school, they had to, you know, pay for their mom's treatment, you know, all that stuff. And so that is kind of the most yeah, what it adds some like realism to this character, and then it also maybe even shows why they're willing to like work at this this whatever hospital for profit, or this fake underground, like, because while they you know, take people's money and all that stuff, it also, Mr. J also gives people stuff, you know, I'm guessing because it's for a sinister reason. But being in our main character's shoes, Alice's shoes, I think that's her name. That probably feels very good to be like, oh, we amputated this guy's arm, and then we gave him a new arm, and no charge, you know. So it feels like in some ways they're working outside of the corrupt system, even though they're corrupt too. It probably feels like, you know, we're the good ones, or we're the, you know, we're the corrupt ones, but we actually help everyone. Whereas these other, you know, these other doctors and just the medical system at large, it's so preferential, and it's so like based on income and stuff, that it's like at least we'll give somebody a prosthetic arm who needs it, you know, even if it's a mobster or whatever, we'll give it to him without charging him. So cool. All right. So yeah, what I'll probably do, Sully, is, so yeah, I'll talk to you about this real quick, and then I'll get back to the story. But yeah, what I'll probably do is, because I figure my next stream will be around the holidays, maybe not like on or around Christmas, but maybe that weekend of after Christmas. And so I think what I was gonna try to do, although you're up pretty early, I mean, at least I don't know what our time zone difference is, I forget, but so yeah, what I'll try to do is I'll watch it on a stream, or on my next stream. I'll listen to it, I'll comment on it and whatever, and then if you want to like call in on Discord or whatever after, and we can chat about it, then we can do that too. And then that way, because I think on that weekend of after Christmas, I'll be streaming kind of, or at least I'll have a stream that's more at a normal time. Like this stream, I started at 3 a.m. my time, so I know that's not a good time for people to whatever, to like join in as guests. But if you want to do that, then that's what we can try to shoot for. Or if it doesn't work out for you timing wise, then I'll just watch it and react to it, you know, and I'll just do it in the middle of some other stories, you know what I mean, to give my voice a break. But yeah, so anyways, that's what I think. Yeah, I think that'll be a good idea, and then that way I could have you on as a guest too, if you're down. But back to the story now. Mom begged me not to use it. It was for me. It was for me after all. Their only remaining daughter. The last remains of the happy life they'd planned together. Perhaps I should have listened to her, as the chemotherapy didn't even save her anyways. Though even with that knowledge now, I think my choice would have remained the same. Now I am the only one remaining in our family with no money to my name. I know I'll survive though. Not due to willpower or anything dumb and sentimental like that. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, or any bullshit like that is just that, bullshit. If it hasn't, it just hasn't killed you yet. No, that's exactly why I know I won't die. Death enjoys its dance with the Morgans too much. These tragedies can be traced for generations. Sudden famine, floods, plagues. You name it, someone died from it. Death won't come for me yet, not until it has someone new in our bloodline to tangle with. Until then, it'll tease me. Until then, it'll tease me a little. Until then, it'll tease me a little. That's when I got a phone call. My biggest fear when I announced my mother's funeral was I'd be the only one to show up. Fortunately, the lack of relatives in attendance didn't lessen the crowd too much. My family made many friends over the years, most of which didn't even recognize me. They either met me when I was an infant or were co-workers whose existence I was only now learning of. Despite being moved by my mother's passing, none were moved to help me. There was one weird guest that day, if you could even call them that. What's up, General? Arena story called Mr. J's. I actually don't know the full name, but I don't want to lose my spot. Anyways, it's in the description, you know. Super sick, but slowly recovering. Well, that's good. That's good you're on the mend. I hope, you know, yeah, I hope you stay healthy. But yeah, this story, interestingly enough, is like this would have been doctor, but they had to drop out of medical school, is working for this, basically this supernatural hospital where it's owned by this guy, Mr. J, and it's called the Workshop, but it essentially is just a hospital for, you know, like disreputable types like gangsters and people who don't want to go to the regular hospital, but then it also caters to supernatural beings too. So we've got mentions of like Cthulhu monsters coming in to be diagnosed with either cancer or a cold. There's been stuff about were-dogs versus werewolves, and there's the surgeon is a guy named Larry with a sturgeon head. So yeah, it's been a fun story so far, I guess, is my point. And you can probably relate to it because it's a lot of it is about health issues and the medical field, and so yeah. There was one weird guest that day, if you could even call them that. By the graveyard was the road leading into the cemetery. On the road was a moderately sized black limousine. The window was rolled down, but no one emerged from the vehicle. It freaked me out, to say the least. They must have been able to tell even from that distance, however, as the tinted window was quickly pulled up. So yeah, it looks like Mr. J scouted our Alice at her mother's funeral And I'm thinking that maybe, I don't know, Mr. J could be the devil. He could be Death himself, because she says how Death likes to toy with her. And so now that her whole family is finally dead, she's the last surviving member. It sounds like maybe, maybe now Death is like putting her to work in this hospital place. I don't know. That's just a off the cuff theory, but it definitely seems it's unfolding in such a way that it seems like even before they worked at the hospital, like there are some supernatural forces encroaching on their life, so to speak. By the end of the service, it was long gone. I never thought of it much after that. Maybe just a curious passerby, or maybe some sick freak who got off on other people's misery. Either way, out of sight, out of mind. I worked on trying to get some form of job. Ambitions of being a doctor turned into prayers of being a McDonald's employee. Certainly, it was a step down, but I really would take anything. Nothing would take me, though. After what must have been the 100th failed interview, I went home defeated. Home, which was now a rundown apartment above a fishmonger store. At the rate things were going, I wasn't even going to make rent for that dump. I wondered if maybe I was wrong. Perhaps Death decided this was the final dance. It planned to watch me slowly starve to fill its own appetite. That was until it called for an encore. As I was lying face down on my mattress, contemplating if perhaps OnlyFans was a viable route forward, I heard a distinct ring on my phone. I scrambled. Maybe finally my prayers would be answered. And on the other side of that phone was an overworked, underpaid office drone offering me minimum wage in return for my mortal soul. I answered the call and greeted the person on the other side with my best, I am a totally normal, stable individual you can trust voice. Hello, this is Alice Morgan speaking. How can I help you today? At first, I was proud of my model employee greeting, but I soon realized there was nothing, just silence on the other end. Hello? I listened closer. The static of the phone line made it hard to make out. There was a distinct sound on the other end, heavy breathing. But who is this? I meant to ask this assertively, but my trembling caused the breathing to immediately cease. After a beat of silence, a new sound emerged. A horrible cacophony of screeching sounds, like nails on a chalkboard mixed with screaming children and out-of-tune instruments. It sounded almost inhuman, otherworldly. I dropped the phone, covering my ears. It was so loud I couldn't hear my own damn thoughts. I could feel it in my bones. It made my skin crawl and hair stand on end. It rang throughout my head repeatedly until I realized it was only the echoing memory now reverberating in my mind. I looked down at the phone. They had hung up. What kind of sick prank was that? How did they even get my number? I was hesitant to pick it up, out of fear of somehow summoning that horrific sound again, but after finding the courage, I reached out for it. Before I had another moment to contemplate whatever had happened, I got a notification on my phone. The now cracked screen lit up. The sound for the notification was different. It was usually a generic ding sound that was default in the settings. Instead, this time distinctly sounded like bell chimes, like an old church bell echoing through an old vacant town. I turned on the phone to look. I received a message. I need a doctor. I didn't recognize the number. Was this part of the prank? No. The number before definitely read as unknown when I picked it up. Even though it was vague and seemed too conveniently timed, my curiosity got the better of me, and so I responded, "What do you mean?" I intently watched the dots moved as they typed back. "You are looking for work, aren't you?" "Yeah, who is this?" Perhaps I was being a bit too bold. They did just ask about me if I was looking for work. Maybe this was someone finally getting back to me, as they just had a weird way of going about it. I watched the dots appear, then disappear for a moment. When they returned, it didn't take long for me to get my response. "I'm Mr. J." Those were the strange circumstances that led to my current occupation. I've never met Mr. J. I've never even had a phone call with him. Our conversations are restricted to brief text exchanges. I'm not even sure what his real name is. See, and I was wondering if the story would ever mention the Joker, Mr. J thing. And now it looks like it is. I'm not even sure what his real name is. I've chosen to make his picture in my contacts an image of the Joker, a reference to Harley Quinn, as it seems now he's my Mr. J. It's also fitting, as on the number of occasions Mr. J has left little notes for us on the back of playing cards. They are often short and brief, like, "Prepare this," or "Do that," or "This client is coming today." The man seems to have a weird aversion to doing anything normally. See, I mean, Larry and Janet, and all the other characters that we've seen so far, they don't seem like they're out of anything, but now the fact that they're like that they drew the reference to that his name is Mr. J, and then this whole playing card thing, I don't know how much I like that, because I think I liked it better when he's just the owner of this workshop hospital thing, and it's this shadowy figure that no one knows. But now that they're actually, like, I get it, it's just a joke, like, within the story, and within the character is like, well, if his name's Mr. J, I guess I'll give him the picture of the Joker. But the fact that he leaves notes on playing cards, I don't know. I just hope it's not going into some weird, like, and the city we live in is Gotham, and this is like Batman horror fan fiction, or just something like that. Like, I don't want him to be the Joker, is what I'm saying. I want Mr. J to just be the owner of this supernatural hospital where Alice Morrigan works as the doctor, or one of the doctors. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm not too, like, upset by it or too worried about it. I just the reference to Mr. J makes sense, whenever people hear Mr. J, they hear Harley Quinn going, "Oh, Mr. J," So I understand why the story added it, but now the fact that he's like using playing cards, I'm like, okay, wait, what the fuck? Are we about to get a scene where Batman comes in because he was shot or something? Like I just am wondering like now. But it's still, like I say, it's still a fun, very fun story. So Larry and Janet don't seem to know much either. Larry arrived at the workshop the same time I was hired. Janet has worked for him for longer, but never seems to have an answer to many of my questions. The frustrating part of being a diagnostician is it's my job to ask questions. I'm sure you are probably curious why this was the path I took in med school rather than cancer research or a surgeon or whatever. One of the problems that plagued my family was we never knew what was wrong with us. When symptoms of the diseases first appears, doctors were often dismissive, especially when my mother would desperately ramble about some curse. To them, she was just a hysterical woman. See? Again, a lot of good parallels to the medical field. I like it. I considered being a family doctor or maybe specializing in radiology or something. Never got to choose though. Barely got to do anything practical either, just read a lot of textbooks. All I knew is I wanted to catch the problems other doctors missed. I wanted to be the one to solve problems for people. I wanted to be there for them and figure out the mysteries of their bodies. Despite my complaints, I actually quite enjoy my job, even with the strange creatures that walk into the workshop. Trying to figure out their anatomy, it's fun, horrific at times, but fun. However, with everything else involved in our line of work, you don't ask questions. At first, my curiosity would often get the better of me. I'd push Mr. J more than I should. What's his real name? Why wouldn't he meet with us in person? I learned the hard way, keep my mouth shut. When the next day I got to work to discover the mutilated bodies of the pigeons I fed on my commute home. They were displayed across my desk in various unnatural positions. I didn't even need to read the playing card to know it was Mr. J's handiwork. On the back of the Ace of Hearts, he wrote, "Don't forget to throw them in the pit, Mr. J." Fortunately, I quickly grew numb to this place. So after that, I asked no more questions. With the folk that come in here, I really should ask no more questions. With the folk that come in here, I really should. Most, if they so desire, could probably kill me. And some definitely have desired to. I don't know if it's our assistance with the ailments or the looming threat of Mr. J that keeps their urges at bay. Frankly, I don't think I'm paid enough for this gig, but it's not too bad. I work weekdays, typically 5 a.m. to 12 a.m. Not much time to sleep. Yeah. Not much time to sleep, but I get the weekends to recover while Janet and Larry deal with whoever I've scheduled surgeries for. I even get paid holiday leave. I just have nowhere to take them, so I don't. Other than that, there's just a couple rules to follow. Throw the remains into the pit, as mentioned before. Always work with a smile. which was quickly abandoned since Larry is incapable of smiling. An unspoken rule of don't question Mr. J, and finally, don't arrive at work between 3 and 4 a.m. I admittedly broke the last rule once. In fact, I think I may have nearly lost my life that day. Mr. J had a specific client coming in at 4, so he asked me to show up early. Now, this was in my early days, so I didn't think much of appearing at 3:58 rather than at 4:01 a.m. I walked from home to work so I can now be more specifically timed, but at this point, I didn't see the big deal. That day, I saw Mr. J, or well, I think I saw the figure of him. As I was trying to find the right key for the door, I saw someone moving over by the pit. I couldn't make out a face as their back was to me. They wore a large brim hat and a dull brown trench coat. I was about to shout over to be careful. I didn't want to even imagine the consequences of them falling in. Probably accidentally thrown the odd still living corpse down that hole in the pass, but this would be confirmation of what would happen for certain. Something in my gut told me I didn't want to find out. That's when I realized the figure wasn't standing by the pit. They were crawling out of it, climbing up from the dark abyss as if it were just an average day. Once their feet were both firmly planted on the ground, the figure dusted themselves off. They must have been at least 7 feet tall, maybe even 8. It didn't take much time to take note, however, as the figure quickly took notice of me. That sentence is just clunky. It's been pretty well written so far, but I didn't take much time to take note, however, as the figure quickly took notice of me. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that part needs to be changed, the first clause of that sentence. I couldn't tell if they were looking at me or not. I just felt a primal urge to run, as if death itself was staring down the back of my neck, trying to decide how to kill me. I scrambled with my keys and opened the door, shutting it behind me. I couldn't explain it, but I had a feeling if I hadn't made it inside, I wouldn't be talking to you all right now. After waiting for a moment to make sure the figure didn't pursue me, I walked up into my office. The clock read 4:02 a.m. Cautiously, I looked out the window, my curiosity getting the better of me once again. I then saw a moderately sized black limousine waiting outside in the alleyway. The same one from my mother's funeral. I watched as I saw the fabric of the figure from before's trench coat trail inside before shutting the door. After a moment, it drove off. So see, I think maybe Mr. J lives in the pit. Maybe it is like death, it is some sort of like, he is some sort of creature that like I don't know. They're not supposed to go there at around between 3 and 4. Maybe that's when he's emerging from the pit, or maybe I don't know. But it's interesting. We're getting more pieces. This is fun. It's unraveling. Again, I was too curious to let it go as a question plagued me. Despite my nervous hesitation, I ran outside. That's when I confirmed it. The direction of the car drove off and was a dead end, another blocked off alleyway. I then heard bell chimes from my phone. My blood ran cold. Slowly, I reached for it in my pocket and read the message. Don't do that again. I never broke that rule again. Yeah, he's the pit man. I mean, he's Mr. J, but that is just a name, right? That's just like a moniker. I don't think that's actually what he's called. But I do think that clearly, if that limousine was at his funeral and the thing that gets in that limousine was at comes out of the pit or is related to the pit, and then they throw all the body parts and dead bodies from the hospital into that pit. Yeah, but then when the creature came out of the pit, or the trench coat figure, it said it made her feel like, death was hungry for her or whatever. So I'm wondering if like this whole pit is a way to like satiate the curse that has been plaguing her family, and the only reason she hasn't been killed yet is because they keep feeding the thing that's in the pit. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, right? It's a fun concept, right? That they just have this pit that's like this garbage disposal for blood and human waste or monster waste, even like living tissue. Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, is this trench coat figure death, or is it some sort of beast that feeds on that? And so yeah, maybe it could just be an amalgamation of the flesh, or it could be like a like the reason you can't go between 3 and 4 is because that's when like you would hear the sounds of it like reforming or reabsorbing all the day's tissue. And so it's like, I don't know, clearly something else will happen besides it just coming out of the pit. I think something else happens between that time, or maybe it's like a resurrection thing. Like maybe each day it comes out of the pit and it's like, a new, it's the same person or whatever, but it's just like a new body. I don't know. It's interesting. I never broke that rule again. Last time I was lucky. If I'm now ever called into work at 4 a.m. and I walk a bit too quickly, I stop to feed bread to some birds. Some replacement pigeons for the ones who died due to my curiosity. Yes, very Lovecraftian. Perhaps I'm misinterpreting Mr. J. He did open the workshop. Maybe he really wants to help people, those abandoned by society. Or maybe he's some super hot mafia boss, like in all those dumb fan fictions I used to read as a teenager. And soon, a blossoming romance will form between us, or maybe even between him and Larry. Who am I kidding? If anything, I'm asking too many questions. I know I'm going to die here. If not to a patient hands or Mr. J, then maybe my own. I know death isn't done with the Morgans yet, but if I endeavor to ever have kids, I guess it'll have to have no other choice but to end this dance. Until then, it's just holding out hope until I take my final bow before the curtains close. Lately, a thought has been eating away at me. I'd be graduating right about now. My mom would be taking photos with me, beaming her big smile. My older sister would probably get married with kids. I'd be bickering with her husband about who loves her more. My little brother would be going into senior year of high school. Nana crying about how he's growing up too fast. My dad would have finally perfected his barbecue, becoming the best griller in our neighborhood. Instead, here I am, giving pills to addicts and health advice to murderers. Perhaps this was always what death had planned for the Morrigans, what it had planned for me. But was this also God's plan? Does this all have his approval? I'm getting too emotional for my liking. Not much use for that lately. Just remember, if you need our services, I'm just a diagnostician. No, we don't give a damn about health insurance, and we'd appreciate if you don't shoot us. At Mr. J's workshop, we are here to help. Damn. So that was fun. It definitely had maybe the more like action-y parts at the end, but I like that it kind of ended with talking about the rules and maybe giving us hints as to who or what this Mr. J character is. I definitely think I'm gonna have to read part 2. I don't know if that'll be on the very next stream, but I am curious, and I like the sense of like I said, this seems very episodic. It seems very like, it reminds me of a cartoon or like a television show where it's like anything can come through the door. We got the Italian mobster guy who got his arm blown off and then needed to have it like amputated, or his arm was like mangled, you know what I mean? You know what I mean, sorry. And then, so we got like those cool scenes, and then we kind of got some more character growth about Alice Morrigan and her family, and that she feels plagued by death and like disease and affliction, and that's kind of why she became a doctor. And I think it was good. In some ways, it kind of had more heart. Not to shit on Tales from a Gas Station, but it kind of had more heart, in that we got like more background about Alice and her mom and all that stuff. Whereas Jack is just Jack, and he's just the guy who doesn't sleep, who works at the gas station. And both are cool for both reasons. And that story definitely takes more like left turns and whatever. But this is fun too, because I really like this idea of having a mobster come in who's like, I've been shot, help me. And the receptionist lady is like, what part is ailing you? And the guy's like, can't you see my freaking arm? And she's like, what's your pain on a scale of 1 to 10? Like, all that's so funny and so like relevant to just the absurdity sometimes of trying to get medical attention in the real world, that I really like that connection. But then I like that we're getting like more backgrounds, and we're getting the sense that, maybe death or whatever thing has been plaguing her family, maybe has kind of forced Alice to this place, and, made her stuck in this hell of having to treat all these monsters and crazy things, which is fun. I think it's a fun start, and I'm definitely curious to see where part 2s go. Definitely curious to see who or what Mr. J is, and also just to get more scenes. More than anything else, I just want more, I want to see. We got that long scene about the Italian mobster guy. I want like a long scene of them treating a monster, right? and how that goes and what they have to do and figuring out the monster's anatomy and all that sounds really fun. And then you know, later I do think we'll get some sort of question as to maybe answer to the question as to maybe what ails her family and her, and you know, how that resolves itself, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe she is just cursed and, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's just so much fun. It was just a great, like, fun, episodic, entertaining ride. I think it's well written. I think it's funny. I also think it takes itself seriously at parts, in a way that I kind of wasn't expecting. I was kind of expecting it to stay in this really, like, jaded kind of, I'm underwhelmed by everything, nothing bothers me anymore sort of a way. But then we get the sense that, well, things actually do bother Alice, and she really kind of wants to know what's going on here. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. So I wasn't expecting that, and I found that like a nice, from a narrative standpoint, it was like a pleasant surprise. You know, I know some people like it when, like Tales from the Gas Station, it just stays like kind of ridiculous the whole time, and Jack doesn't learn anything, or he doesn't, like, he learns that it's the monster under the gas station, and then the guy just blows up the monster. So all that really is kind of kaput, and he's like, well, weird things still happen. The raccoon grew butterfly wings or whatever, you know, all the other stuff that was going on at the gas station. And I know people like that sort of an ending too, but I'm thinking that this story is going to have a little bit like more in terms of Alice's whatever, solving the curse of her family and getting to the bottom of that. And that's cool. And it's cool that it's this setup where, you know, where anything can happen, where you could get a vampire coming in being like, I got AIDS, I think I fed on the wrong person, or, you know, whatever the situation. So there's just so many scenarios that you could play with that are super funny and entertaining with these horror elements or horror tropes. You could have like a zombie who's like, I'm going vegan, but this new diet, you know, or this new, like, I'm going vegetarian. And they're like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, I'm only eating humans who eat vegetables. And like, for some reason that's making the zombie sick or something. You know, you could have so many fun ideas and things that could really, yeah, too bad Batman didn't appear. Yeah, but again, I didn't want that. I'm glad that didn't happen, because once it started to do the Mr. J things with the writing on the note cards, I was kind of getting worried that eventually we were going to find out that this is Gotham and this is actually a Batman like companion story, and I don't want it to turn into that. Maybe it will, who knows. But yeah, that's just my opinion on that. But it's very fun. It's very fun. It's well written. It takes twists and turns, and you know, we have Larry the Sturgeon Surgeon. I think that's great. I like that Janet's just like this bitchy receptionist who maybe kind of gives a fuck but doesn't really give a fuck, and she's also is a registered nurse, but for some reason she just has to work as a receptionist and she can't help anybody. And I think that's fun too. I think maybe in part 2 we'll get to find out why with that. And yeah, and so I'm stoked on it. I like it. I like the series. I'm curious to see where part 2 goes, you know, and that's that's really all I have to say. But good story. You know, I'll give it an upvote. You know, um and yeah, I think it's got quite a good, like, 34 comments and 20 upvotes is not bad, and it's on the Creepcast main subreddit, so um that's, it's already got quite a bit of engagement. So yeah, shout out to them. Clearly people like it, and so that's cool. Um so next we have A Fly on the Wall by Chicken Milk. And then after that, we have Clever Boy, which, oh yeah, wow, Clever Boy is a lot shorter than I thought. I really didn't know how short Clever Boy was, but that's okay. Let's get into it. Let's do it. Shout out to non-alcoholic Heineken. You're somebody like me who's doesn't drink. Non-alcoholic Heineken is not bad. This is not a paid sponsorship. This is just my opinion. But yeah, I what's funny is that I hated Heineken when I drank, and now Heineken's one of the few things that I can drink. Because most non-alcoholic beer, it'll say non-alcoholic, but it'll be like may contain less or contains less than 0.05%. And for somebody in recovery, you don't want to fuck around with that stuff. So it pisses me off that if anyone makes a non-alcoholic beer, just make it 0.0, please. There's no point. Like, I know some people might just want non-alcoholic, but don't actually care one way or the other. But for people that cannot have alcohol, it's so annoying that you see this new beer and you're like, oh, I want to try that. That sounds good, non-alcoholic. And then it's like, well, you can't. Yeah, your bear slowly says, my bear trap is that for fly on the wall. It is that we'll see through the eyes of a fly as he watched horrible things happen to people. Yeah, I briefly, I think, skimmed the first sentence of this story when I pulled it up to read it, and I definitely think that's right. I was thinking, like, it's maybe just like a fly on the wall in a serial killer's, like, den sort of a thing. Which I don't know. Like, to me, I'm like, I don't know. I haven't read the story yet, so it could be good if it is that. It's just more that it's like, to be a fly on the wall or whatever, I don't, that's a situation where you don't want to be a fly on the wall. So I don't know. But for a horror story, I guess it makes sense. The whole fly on the wall idea, that it's like, I think it'd be cooler to be a fly on the wall. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think. In the MK Ultra experiments, or something like that, Like, if you had a story that was like fly on the wall and you figure out it's for like a government or a fly on the wall in the SCP Foundation, I think that could be a fun idea too. But anyways, that's just me spitballing off the top. Let's get to the story. A Fly on the Wall from Chicken Milk, which I have to say, for all the names that we get where it's like I don't know. I'm trying to make up a name, but I see a lot of Reddit names like this where it's like one word dash or whatever, another word, and then numbers. Like ardent, I don't know, like ardent Buster or Ardent Soda Can, something like that. I see a lot of Reddit names that are like Ardent Soda Can 123, and that's fine. It's just I like chicken milk. I'm like, boom, I remember that. Chicken milk makes an impression on me, and I feel like I'll be able to recall that name as it pertains to like this story, you know? And so I just, as someone who sees a lot of different Reddit names and stuff, and says them out loud and stuff, I have to say when I think I hear a good one. A fly on the wall. I hardly want to sleep anymore. I'm so tired that I want to die. I remember the good days. My head on a pillow after a hot shower. Sleep hitting almost instantly. It's been a talent I've always had. I even bragged about it at the time. Well, now it's my hell. Especially now, trying to stay up, trying to postpone it. If I just lay down, I'll bleed out. Why did it start? Damned if I know. I just want it to end. I don't use electronics before bed. No screens. I don't eat less than an hour before bed. I shower every night. Read a book. Something boring like philosophy or whatever. Something that makes the lights go out. Boy, they do. Within an hour, my eyes are drooping, and now I lay me down to sleep. I used to love sleep. I did it all the time. Even during the day, I had designated napping periods and a set bedtime at night. I take my sleep schedule seriously. Sue me. Actually, right now, just kill me. They aren't nightmares. I know what you're thinking. No, they aren't. Every time it happens, I'm there. The second my head hits that blissful embrace of the pillow, the demons start heating the pitchforks to poke me all night. And suddenly, it's like I'm up again. I'm sitting on someone's couch, someone real. At someone's dinner table, someone real. In their bed with them, really, too close for comfort, really, watching them. Oh, is this interesting? So is this person saying that every time they dream, for some reason, just one day they fell asleep, and every time they go to sleep, they're just with someone. They're just watching. They're like transported to being a fly on the wall in someone else's life, which is an interesting concept. And I do think, having said that, I do think you would know the difference between that and just like dreaming, because in dreams, you know, you're usually yourself. You're usually like, there's usually people in your life that you knew. You're in places that you're familiar with. I feel like if this happened, and even if the place isn't exactly a place you're familiar with, it's like it reminds you of a place you're familiar with, where I feel like if this happened, you would, you know, you're just all of a sudden in someone's house while they're eating dinner, like listening to the conversation for people you've never met. And it's like a real, I don't know. I feel like your brain would be able to tell the difference. That's interesting though. Too close for comfort, really, watching them. And it's different each time. Someone new. Like I'm watching a movie that I'm inside of, but I'm that fly on the wall. No one notices, even though it's right in front of them. And they're all getting slaughtered. Oh my God. Oh God. So every time he sees people being murdered, and he's a fly on the wall for it. There I am, sitting in the lazy boy of some poor old biddy and geezer's home. The carpet is so soft. The recliner smells like old person sweat and cheese. The light bulbs are all aged and yellow, just bright enough to see, but not very clearly. In front of me is a TV. Beside me is a couch with an old woman eating peanuts out of a bowl, not looking at the TV. I hear every crunch and crackle like a grinding gear as she chews. I hear and see everything in 4D. Her husband sits beside her, staring at the tube, his foot tapping the floor before he gets up. He grunts out raspy, "I need a smoke." "Those'll kill you, you know," the old woman says. There's a door to the left of the TV that I keep looking at. One of those sliding doors that goes into the wall. It's all the way open. The open blackness yawns like a maw of a blasphemer. Because what comes through is unholy. The old man is slammed into the side. The old man is slammed into the side of the wall on the opposite side. I don't see him yet, but know what is happening from the noise. He falls to the ground, seizing violently, slamming into everything breakable in the room. His wife at his side, screaming, peanuts and cigarettes flying everywhere, me unable to move, and finally he stops. He looks up once at his wife. "Please, Edith, just kiss me one more time." Confused and afraid, she does. Then they embrace, and their lips envelop together. The smacks and slurps of wet flesh slapping together, drool dripping down both their faces, tongues doing secret handshakes, his hands still clutching the pack of cigarettes. The wife wipes her mouth and looks at him. "What, honey? What was that for?" That's when his face opened up. Interesting. "I used to work at a pigeon hatchery. We sold the birds to farms and hunting camps for dog training. I don't know if you've seen a stillborn squab inside of its egg after you pull back the fleshy layer and see it curled up in there, all red and lumped together like a deformed worm drenched in grenadine and sprinkled with flecks of wood shavings. That's kind of what it looked like. It happened maybe 5 seconds at most. All of the skin and bones on his face spread open, like an eye dilating all the way, except inside was something like red mud mixed with meat, which landed directly on her face and into her still open mouth. A final kiss goodbye. Jesus Christ. The woman spasming and writhing in disgust, splitting and coughing and retching, me wishing I could do the same. She scrambles, her pink face whipping across the room for an attacker. Her making this low mule's moan over and over and over, backing up, up, up. She didn't see the coffee table and lands on her side. I hear an audible pop and a shallow gasp, and then I'm out. Like the fade out of a movie scene, the curtains close and I'm pulled into the murky blackness and back into something like sleep. The rest of the night uninterrupted. Now I lay me down to sleep. But it's not a restful sleep. It's a long, tormented, sweaty, hot sleep that wakes me up feeling like I've slept for days on end, and with a migraine that would make a priest put a couple bucks in a swear jar. Racking through my brain, telling myself it was a dream, still smelling the hot, squirming squab of meat. I shower every morning too. not only because of the sweat, migraine, and piss, but also the blood. My nostrils feel like someone's stuck a Ticonderoga pencil in each one up to the R. That's imagery, all right. No, I didn't hit my face. No, I'm not sick. No, I'm not going to the fucking doctor. I don't have health insurance, and I quite literally cannot afford it. Every morning is like this. The smell of freshly opened organs never goes away. A hot, stinging smell. It gets worse the more this happens. The smell is decaying in my airways, and each morning a fresh layer is smoothly applied. It hurts to breathe, to eat, to swallow, cough, sneeze. The outsides of my nose are scabby from wiping the droplets so much. Tearing raw each time. Tearing raw each time. Each night again is the same but different. This time it's a wife and kids cowering in the corner while the father is beat and maimed in front of them by a home intruder that none of us can see. Him screaming at them over and over, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I can't help it, I need. Meanwhile, I hang by one hand from the ceiling fan, just checking out the scenery. Another, I am at the foot of someone's bed in a leapfrog position. See, I like this. And one, he's in the chair, and one, he's hanging from the ceiling fan, and another, he's sitting in a leapfrog position. I like that. Not only is he a fly on the wall for these situations, but he's in like these very odd, surreal positions. For what the first one seemed like it was like a supernatural thing, but then not all of them are, right? So that's interesting too. Their feet stuck out of the comforter and suddenly beginning to silently convulse, running in place for a moment like a shot hog while a voice travels under the door. In response, the bump on the far end of the bed begins to stain and spread and leak. A river of blood flows from both sides, and some of it gets on me. Should have kept his feet under the blanket. And again, now I'm on a dresser looking down as a man goes to open the drawers. He takes out a box, an envelope, a lot of cash, reaches in his pocket, and puts another wad of it in an envelope as well. A woman joins him and looks inside, impressed. They both laugh and tell each other what they're going to do with it before stopping to look down each at their own torso and begin to strip. Something is moving, something inside them. They scream, they cry. Their ribs burst out of them as they fall face down, stone dead. And ribs flap on either side of them like little wings. They don't fly far at all. Their little wings elevate them slightly, but the limp limbs and faces just drag on the floor. They fly in circles in opposite directions of each other around their envelope and spilled pile of cash, leaving a twin snail trail of blood as they do. And every time it's me who has to see. See, what the fuck? Yeah, I would be bummed too if I was this guy. Jesus Christ. It's been 3 days now that I haven't slept. I'm trying to make sense of it. I don't want it to happen again. I don't want to see it again. I don't watch the news. I don't go out anymore. I don't want to sleep, but it's so late. I'm so tired. I have to. I don't understand it. I need a drink. I need a lot of drink. Maybe that'll be the cure. I'll get wasted, too wasted for it to happen. Just black out until tomorrow, like old times. My hand on the bottle, lifting to take a long, glorious swig, but suddenly my head hurts again, so very bad. A migraine tearing through my head like a hot needle of poison, and my nose starts bleeding. Not again. I lose my footing and collapse on the floor, naked and screaming like the day I was born. And I feel the slight tickle as a fly lands on my foot. Ah, shit. So he was the guy. He was the one who died that time. At least that's the way I took it. Somebody else was the fly. This was very good. It was good body horror. It was good supernatural elements, but it didn't explain itself too much. It didn't, like, clearly it's an unexplainable phenomenon. He sees all these people die. He sees some of them die in supernatural ways. He sees the dad getting murdered in front of his family, that like by like a junkie or something. That's a bummer. This story's definitely a big bummer, but it's definitely good psychological horror. Like it says, it's good like body horror. Like I really liked the part about the dove egg or whatever they said, the pigeon egg, I'm not sure. And how that looks, and then it like relates it to the guy's mouth. I liked the elements of him being in a different spot each time. You know, like a leapfrog or hanging from a ceiling fan. And then the whole idea of the bodies like flying with their rib cages, like creepy, obviously horrifying. Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, definitely fucking like, yeah, made me wince, made me go, what the fuck, a lot. But a really cool, I think what I like most about the story is just like making the whole idea of I keep having this scary dream or these bad dreams. Taking that horror concept, which is such an annoying, like everyone hates that, in my opinion, for the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some dream sequences in movies and stuff that are cool, but pretty much everyone hates in a movie when, oh my god, he was just dreaming, or this really crazy, creepy thing happens and then the person wakes up. I'm never like, oh, that was awesome. You know, I never feel that way from a story, from a movie, and whatever. And to take that concept that I feel like is so played out and that pretty much no one likes, and be like, I'm going to turn this concept, but I'm going to kind of flip it in a way where it's not the fact that I wake up or that I have these scary dreams and then I wake up. It's this idea that every time I'm going to sleep, I'm stuck in these horror things of people dying and people supernaturally like killing each other and what, you know, all sorts of crazy fucked up things. And then to have it be that is the horror of it because I can't not sleep, right? And that is where it becomes the thing, and that's ultimately what kills him, because he's trying not to sleep and he's trying to drink, and then whatever, he gets the migraine and he starts to pass out and he sees the fly on his foot. And so to take such a like played out horror concept and kind of refresh it in this new really interesting way, I mean, yeah, I just have to say bravo. And what a short, like, good, interesting, cool story with multiple cool scenes. Yeah, there wasn't like character development or anything, you know, it was all just told from the point of view of I. And that's fine. Like sometimes that's all you need for a horror story. And it's short. And it's short stories like this that really make me wish like Creepcast would do like a grab bag episode, but not almost like they did with the creepy pasta speed run, but with the fan. They should do like a fan story speed run where maybe a few stories are longer ones, like between 5 or 10 minutes, but most of them could be this length. And I do feel like they would get a ton. They could find, if they compile them correctly, they could find a lot of stories that are about this length that are really fucking good. This is great. This was a really fucking good story. I think the body horror elements were disturbing. I think the couple and the final kiss goodbye, and then the dude's head like mutating into this thing that then like latches onto the old woman. I think that's creepy. I think it was at first I thought that she was just gonna die in his arms, and I was gonna be like, oh my god, that's so heartbreaking. But then it just turned to in this horrifically like fucked up way that I was just like, I went from being like, oh my god, that's so sad, to being like, oh my god, the fuck, Jesus, and that's really cool too. I think that's really psychologically horrifying to kind of play with my emotions like that and kind of get me to be like, oh my god, this old couple, they're dying, or they're not dying together like Notebook style, but he falls back and he's seizing and he's dying, and that's so sad. And then to just have it completely like rug pull me like that is just really fun too, and really unsettling. Like this, I'm definitely unsettled by this story. I don't like it because I also don't like when I have bad dreams. I'm not one of these like horror people that thinks my bad dreams are really cool, or whatever. It's like I almost always hate my bad dreams. I almost always wake up a lot, like, and I keep having bad dreams. And yeah, so like as somebody, like, I can relate to this story, I guess is what I'm saying, from like a personal level of like not wanting to go back to sleep, or whatever. It's like that's a very human element. And I think that when people do the whole, oh my god, it was just a bad dream thing, they miss out on like what makes that so relatable. Because when they do it in a movie or whatever, it's like, oh, they had a prophecy, or they saw the bad guy and it was scary and they woke up. But the scary part is the realizing it's all just a dream, but then realizing that you have to go back to sleep, or that, maybe not have to, but that you have to sleep again. That's why Freddy Krueger is such a cool thing, because it's like you can't escape him because you have to go back to sleep. So in another way, I think this story used that smart, it used the dream element in a really smart way, whereas most media or stories, I feel like, doesn't. I feel like it just totally is annoying and is like makes its audience go like, like the movie or the story's going, oh, see, I got you, but it was all just a dream, and the audience is going, oh yeah, you got me, cool. But that's not like, it's not satisfying for the audience ever. So this story was very satisfying. I dig it. I dig it heavy. I think more people need to read it. I think it's criminally, well, how old is it? 5 days old. Okay, so maybe not criminally, but it's definitely undervoted. I mean, it's got a couple comments, but it, really no upvotes. So I think that's a shame. I think Chicken Milk, I think hats off to you, my dude, or my woman. Sorry, not my woman. You know what I mean? I mean, hats off to you, my writer, I don't know, my fellow author. Congratulations, because this is a really cool concept and a cool story. And so, yeah, I just want to, tell you that you got my appreciation. And I really don't like leaving comments because everything I just said, I said everything I just wanted to say, I said out loud. But I want this story to have another comment. So, my fellow creeper, exactly. Yeah, fellow creeper. Fuck yeah. All right, there we go. I hate just writing comments while I stream. It at least I hate trying to have to write them out on the spot. I'd rather take my time if I was leaving a comment and just do it, but I always try to hurry on the stream. All right, next we have Clever Boy, which is another psychological horror. This is from Affectionate Leave. They made the thumbnail, so this will probably be the last story. I'm sorry, I am going to go use the bathroom just real quick, so I will be right back.
The camera in the morgue shut down. And it seems to be, I mean, theoretically, possibly, who am I to judge? That might be where the data extraction was taking place.
So is this supposed to be like a hospital then?
I don't know. Why don't you find out?
Okay, I'll see. So it's not a public school, so we don't have to worry about that. So we can mark that off.
No.
But we could be nanny cam still.
We could still be a nanny cam. This is true. But here we see like a bunch of computers, stuff like that, right? So yeah, just some pieces of the puzzle to keep.
Sure. Yeah, I like the. I'm always a fan. I'm always a sucker for the whole analog horror vibe. Like the aesthetic of it. You know what I mean?
A man after my own heart. I tell you what.
Well, I know how to get you going, don't I?
You know exactly how to talk to me, baby girl. So I'm a huge analog horror junkie. Obviously, that's kind of what kicked off my channel. And I really love Greylock for how it incorporates analog elements into its story. Now, I'll tell you this: when I saw tape 1, I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not that interested. Tape 2 made me get into the series.
Well, the thumbnail already is insane. I don't even know what the fuck I'm looking at.
Man. Okay, I'm excited. You have to watch tape
stoked.
2 right now. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. To the mountain.
Pursue evil, it is evil that they will find. Mark my words, there is no good that can come from the pursuit of darkness. Let me read to you, dear believer, the words of the late brilliant Charles.
God, could you put something else on the radio?
In a sermon of 1864. He said, quote, our adversary,
the devil,
goes about like a
roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. All right. So as of right now, how do you feel about this? The mood, the aesthetic?
Well, first off, there's nothing really creepier than like a nice... I'd be curious what they shot this on, because it looks great. That old kind of like really VHS feeling deal going down a very random road. I mean, you're from kind of the thicket as well, but going down those roads where it's like there's no lights at all, it's just your headlights, and it's like the darkness is unveiling itself kind of as you keep going is so good. It's very creepy. Also, the idea of the radio, of it being like a weird, just a guy sitting in silence listening to this like doomsday kind of.
Sorry. I muted it when I went away. That was my bad. Thank you, Sully. I always tell myself that if I mute it, I'm always gonna remember, and then I forget. So thank you. At least I didn't talk for 20 minutes, but before. And I was just saying about. Yeah, I was just saying that I think Chicken Milk is watching, and thank you for the awesome story, and it just goes to show that a story, that you could do a lot in a short amount of time, and you can have a shorter story and still have multiple moments where it's like stomach turning. You know what I mean? It's like it's horrifying and unsettling, and very cool. But let's get on to Clever Boy from Affectionate Leave. Amazing artist, great. They made the thumbnail, so shout out to them. We're gonna read Clever Boy. I checked my phone in the middle of the night. The screensaver, a picture of my girlfriend, practically blinded me. Even though I always kept my brightness low, I double-checked the settings to make sure I wasn't going crazy. She'd been going through my phone again. Messages marked as read that I hadn't opened. Apps running in the background I knew I didn't touch. Even little things in the room were out of place, like she'd been snooping around. What was she looking for? Didn't she trust me? It felt wrong to add a passcode now. That would just make it harder to gain her trust. Besides, I had nothing to hide. Just a few offensive memes between friends. This was my first relationship, my first real girlfriend. It's strange how I could let someone I hardly knew so close to me. I finally had a girl staying over. I didn't feel lonely anymore. I felt invaded. Sheesh. A strong word, but I understand given the context of the story. I like it. You know, I like that word. I think it turned the sentence well. She was the only person who'd ever pushed past my awkwardness to get to know me. Couldn't she see that? I didn't have the skills to betray her, even if I wanted to. I was too afraid to risk conflict this early on. What if I was wrong? I needed proof. That's when I decided I was going to set a trap. The next night, we carried on like usual. She brought over food from her work. We watched a bad horror movie, and she fell asleep before it was over. But tonight, my phone would lie face down on the nightstand, armed, ready to catch whatever might be lurking in the night. Earlier, I made a photo album labeled Do Not Open with one picture inside, a screenshot of a note that simply said, "Gotcha." With my master plan in place, all I had to do was wait with an evil grin. The anticipation kept me up late. I'd begun to feel guilty for the childish trap I'd set, ashamed that I'd ever believed she would fall for it. I debated deleting it. Even if I did catch her, what good would it do? I'd see the picture show up in recently viewed, and it would confirm my suspicions. She'd feel embarrassed, probably never bring it up, and things would be awkward between us forever. In the midst of my inner conflict, I drifted off. I woke up around midnight. foggy and unrested, filled with guilt. My phone just sat just where I'd left it, and I grabbed it to erase everything before it caused more problems. The phone opened with the light still dimmed, and I felt ashamed as I looked at her happy face on my lock screen. I went to the album, deleted it, and removed the picture from the deleted folder. I decided I wouldn't care if she went through my phone anymore. I didn't want to lose her. I didn't want, ready to close my phone and put this all behind me. I almost missed it. The album labeled The Clever Boy. I knew I hadn't made it. Was this her doing? Before my brain could react, the album was already open, and I was scrolling through the many pictures inside. In each picture was a young girl, sometimes at a school playground, sometimes walking through the park alone, sometimes sleeping. Confused, I scrolled faster. As the girl grew older in the photos, the picture gradually became clearer, closer. Slowly, I began to recognize her. It was my girlfriend. I swiped through hundreds of photos. Years passed by in a swift blur. The last photo stopped abruptly at the end of a long race to the bottom. The picture was too dark to make out, so I adjusted the brightness to the max and zoomed in close. I studied it for a moment as my mind scrambled to see what exactly I was looking at. The jaws of my trap had snapped shut, but it did not catch the beast I had made her out to be. Something still watches her, but now she's in my bed. Now it sees me too. This is very good. This is it took a creepier turn than I was expecting it to. Yeah, very fucking creepy. Now it sees me too. I really like this kind of poetic, like, each line of it, you know? It has this poetic element to it. I really like it. And it's still like a basic narrative, you know? I like it a lot. This line here, the jaws of my trap had snapped shut, but it did not catch the beast. I don't know if this line, because I feel like this line is saying that you still think she's a beast. I think it should say something like, the jaws of my trap had snapped shut. And it caught a beast, or, you know, like, in it. I realize what you're trying to say with this line is, like, the jaws of my trap snapped shut, but it didn't catch the monster I was expecting, you know? Like, and in saying that, you mean that you thought you were going to catch the monster of a distrustful girlfriend, right? But instead it caught a beast much more sinister. But I feel like this line almost reads like, but it did not catch the beast I had made her out to be. Like, because I feel like it did catch the beast in a way, right? Well, I guess not really, because I guess the beast, the stalker person, put all those photos on your phone, right? So maybe not, but I don't know. I just feel like that line is a little, it made me pause a little bit. I don't know how to fix it. I just think it's something that that I want the author, you know, if you're, or when you watch this, or if you watch this, I just want you to maybe just think about that line a little bit, and try to tweak it in some way. I don't think that it's bad, and I get what you're trying to say with it. I just think that it sounds a little bit like still saying that she's a beast, or that, I don't think it's fully being clear saying that it's like, maybe it needs to be like, I sought to catch a beast, but awoken, but instead I awoken, or whatever that word is, awaken, whatever. Instead I awakened something so much worse, instead I awoke something so much worse, something like that. Or, maybe not even a beast, but you're like, the jaws of my trap had snapped shut. But in trying to catch X, whatever that is, you could use the word beast, you could use, but in trying to catch X, I cut the leash of something so much worse. Something like that. You know what I mean? Just something to make kind of the distinction. And not that it matters so much, because I know that like the narrator knows that it's not his girlfriend, and I know that by this point the narrator is like, holy shit, she's got this crazy stalker. But now, yeah, I just think that this line could ring out a little bit better, especially for one of the last lines in the like poem or the story. And then, yeah, that's really the only note I have for it. And I feel like in this end part, you're saying that the last photo that he has to zoom in on is of his girlfriend sleeping in your bed, which again, very creepy. I think maybe you should say that a little bit more clearly, like, something still watches her. Yeah, like snapping photos of her in my bed or something like that, and now it sees me too. Boom. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to be too overly critical of the end. I just yeah, it's just a few little tweaks that I have there that I think could make it just twist the knife a little bit more. But I really like it. I like that it starts out. I like the idea of a premise for a horror story is like just a guy not not being trusted by his girlfriend. And in some ways he's not trusting her either, right? He doesn't have confidence in their relationship. He doesn't have confidence in himself enough to just be like, hey, have you been touching my phone? And she'd be like, no, what are you talking about? And he's like, I noticed that it was moved, or what, you know what I mean? And so it's a horror story about like trust and self-faith and like new relationships, and he just thinks that he's so awkward that he doesn't want to have those difficult conversations, you know what I mean? And I think that's a really fun place to start for horror, because you know, a lot of times in a horror story, it's like you have to get a character to do something that they wouldn't normally do. Walk down a dark street, go to a ritual in the woods, whatever. And there's a lot of ways that you could get people to do those kind of creepy things that are the beginning for horror settings. But I think a really smart, not approachable, but fucking relatable, a really smart, relatable way of going about that is having this scenario where he feels like he knows that his girlfriend's not trusting him, but he's also not trusting her or himself just enough to ask her, just enough to be like, hey, I think you're going through my phone, or have you been going through my phone, you know, any of these things. So it starts off by, well, I'm going to set up this trap. I'm going to, you know, and he's not doing it with the whole gotcha thing. He's not doing it to be like overtly mean, like, oh, I'm going to convince her. I'm going to find some pics of a girl online and convince her that I have a fake girlfriend. And then when she tries to yell at me, then I'm going to throw it in her face that it's all fake and that I caught her. No, it's not like malicious like that. He just was being, you know, he was just being a little awkward, like he said, and a little bit like non-confrontational about it. And so he's like, if I just put this thing in my phone, it can let her know that I know without actually having to really talk about it and make it awkward. And that is a very realistic human place to start for like doing something that could kind of lead down a road where now you started this dialogue with this thing, and maybe it is a stalker. I mean, it seems like it's a stalker because it's taking photos, right? And it put photos on a phone. But this might be a supernatural entity. We don't know, you know. It's clearly able to move into his house while they're sleeping or like with total impunity. So it might just be someone who's super sneaky, or it might be a fucking demonic entity that just likes to use iPhones too. We don't know, you know, that likes to take photos and put photos on shit. And so that is very creepy. So he kind of, because of that, he kind of starts this dialogue with this entity. And I say entity meaning stalker or supernatural entity that he doesn't fully understand, right? And that, just out of that, is so already like so such a scary idea. Like you ever had like a random person, like a number you don't know, text you and they say something that isn't clearly meant for you, but then somebody else is like, but then you text a number back and you're like, you know, you're like, you know, some people just say wrong number or whatever, but then sometimes people will kind of be like, well, who are you? You know, sort of a thing. And it's this idea of like just opening this Pandora's box that you don't understand. And it's a very creepy concept, especially because the whole thing starts out that he's sure that it's his girlfriend, right? He's not confident in the relationship. He's not, you know, it's his first girlfriend. He you know, he knows that he doesn't have the skills to whatever, be some two-timing dirtbag, even if he wanted to, sort of a thing. And he approaches it from that place. So to then have that flipped on his head that, you know, what if this thing in your room isn't your girlfriend? And, you know, it's just unsettling. It's just creepy as fuck. Like, I'm trying to think of like another version of where something turns really creepy like that, where, you know, I don't know, just say it's like a noise. Yeah, it's that whole thing of like them being like your loved one or somebody you live with being like, are you up last night? I heard someone downstairs. Like, you went to get a glass of water, right? And they're like, no. And then they're like, I thought that was you. You didn't go get a glass of water? And they're like, no. And so you all of a sudden, it's that very realistic element where it's like, I thought it was you. I thought it was you. And then it's like, fuck, and there are a lot of other real life examples of that, like being used in horror movies and stuff, like where it's like, I thought you picked up the kid from school. No, I thought you did. Oh my God, Billy's been kidnapped. It's that sort of element, but I think this is a really smart, like fun, modern way of going about that. And I liked all the little details about, I'll see it in my recently viewed, and it's like, it's very smart, like Zoomer, whatever, millennial ways of like understanding how technology works and like being clever, like it says clever boy, but then God, it just makes it that much more that much more sinister when the album is called Clever Boy. I really like it, I have to say. Probably, I mean, it's already very highly upvoted and stuff like that. It's clearly getting a lot of love, but again, super short. Like almost, I would say, a poetry format in that each line of it is, it's just lined out like that. But it kind of, because it utilizes this like form, it almost, I would say, like, it just makes every beat in the story ring so much like harder, and like it's very brilliantly like paced, and it's very could you imagine if this was just like a regular story where he's like, so I've been dating this girl for a while, and honestly we're great together and blah blah blah, but the way that it's written is so ominous that I just love it. I think it's really well done. I wonder if with your affectionate leave, if you just kind of started it writing this way and it just kind of manifested this way, or if you started writing it as like a normal story with paragraphs and sentences and like what made you format it this way, I guess, is kind of my question. Did it just come out this way, or did you have it written in maybe a more conventional way, and then slowly over time you started to kind of separate it out and you made it into this very like, he's going through my phone again, messages marked as read that I hadn't opened, apps running in the background I knew I didn't touch, yeah, that's just kind of my question, I guess, for you as a writer, because I am very curious, because I write poetry as well. Not that this is like rhyming whatever poetry, but there is a poetic element to like you could call it like the meter of the story, it's not just a flat out, sentence, comma, sentence, paragraph, sentence, it's very cool, and it makes it super readable and digestible too. I feel like once somebody starts reading it, I feel like almost everyone who started reading this must have finished it, because it starts off in a really interesting nice idea you got reading from the Creepcast fan stories. Yeah, thanks. I think that's a compliment, right? Yeah, I've been doing it for a while, Chaos. Welcome to the chat. Yeah, I've been we're on Tales from the Creeps now. We have our own subreddit. I don't know if you know, but it's the official Creepcast fan submitted story subreddit, and so I've been reading them now for, honestly, like, I don't know, as long as I have my YouTube channel, I've been doing it. Probably like over a year now. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, it's just when I read your comment, just the way, I don't know why I thought it wasn't a compliment, or I didn't think that, but I've been doing it for a while now, and I do read. Don't get me wrong, like some stories will be from like No Sleep or whatever, but for the most part, it's people in the Creepcast community, their stories, because we've got some fucking immense talent in this community. I mean, as you can see with this story right here, and again, this is a story that I think would go so good in a Creepcast fan short story speed run episode where they do like all stories with like 5 minutes or less, and then that are or stories that are like, you know, between 5 and 10 minutes, and then maybe add a few stories that are like 15 minutes in there, just so for that, and they just do a whole bunch of them at once. This is one that I would love to see make it to the show. And I think Clever Boy is such a good title, and I like the fucking bear trap, artwork is so fun. I love it. I'm here for it. I think it's fucking great. Very great. And and I can see a lot of people being like, oh, what a twist. That was clever. Thank you for reading. I actually really enjoyed it. Can't wait to see more. I think this is great. I think it's only going to be a matter of money and time. I think we need I think there's probably already enough stories to do a Creepcast fan anthology. I think it's just a matter of somebody curating and selecting the stories and then deciding if they want it to be a theme, and I hope they do it one day, or I hope some fan that has more money and resources and publishing knows how to do all that. I hope somebody does it, because bear trap, because I think there's a lot of really good shit that's just made, like stuff like this is made for like an anthology type book. If it was in a book, it's also made for the internet too, so I'm happy. I'm very happy with where it is right now, but I also think that some of this stuff, like with the artwork, like this, just to me already seems like a good story for an anthology. You have the artwork, you have the cool kind of format where it reads super easy, and I like it a lot. Now granted, I had a few notes about the end, but I think that it is right, Sully, and that's hasn't been new. It's like ever since ever since Creepcast first was like, oh, you can post stories on the Creepcast subreddit, or even before them, there was Creepcast Submissions, which was another subreddit, and there was all these ones, and there's new stories all the time, and it's crazy. And I even, just me from doing my one post on Tales from the Creeps, I now have a backlog of stories. Now, granted, like, mine are different because I'm not curating them, really. I'm trying to get to every single story commented on that list. And so, like I eventually want to get to all of them. And so, but that is one of the main reasons that I started reading the stories in the first place, is because I saw all the stories getting posted on Creepcast Submissions and whatever. And I'm not gonna, I'll be honest, like I would read through the stories or look through the stories and start reading them, and I wouldn't like all of them. I wouldn't, there was a lot that I just scrolled past and didn't read. But almost every time I would go on the subreddit, and one that I did end up reading all of, I ended up being like, wow, this is really good. It has almost no upvotes or no comments. And so I would leave a comment here and there, but then eventually I was like, I don't like even, I don't like just leaving a comment. I would like to just be able to talk about these stories. And so that's why I got to the point where I was like, well, as much as I don't want to like scoop Creepcast, or I don't want to like, you know, completely copy them or whatever. Like, I was just like, there's just too much good shit to not pass up, or to pass up. You know, there's too much good shit to not try to at least not categorize, but at least, you know, whatever. There's too much good shit to not just draw some attention to it in my own small way. And so that's what I've tried to do on my channel, and what I will keep doing, you know, for the foreseeable future, you know. So, but yeah, that's it. That's the last story for today. You know, I'm sorry that you just showed up, Chaos, and now the stream's over, but I hope you'll go back and watch, because we had a lot of good stories, you know, today and on my recent streams. You know, there's been a lot of good shit, dude. And that's how I know that, like, this community is so talented, because it's like every stream there is good stuff. Every stream, you know, almost all the stories are good. They're either good or they're like really good. You know what I mean? That's weird, I feel like. Especially for like a creepypasta adjacent audience. It's like not that many of them. When it came to regular creepypastas, it's like not that many of them were good, and so many of them seem to be good. Or it's not even so much that there are a lot of people too, that it's not so much that they're good or bad, they're just brand new writers. And I think that's equally as important, because there are all these people who would have never put pen to paper had it not been for Creepcast. And I think that's worthy of you know, giving attention to too, because if somebody wrote a story who never would have written a story otherwise, like, that's art creation in the purest form. That's fucking, you know, that's somebody who would have never expressed themselves otherwise, and now because of that, they, you know, they could, like, think about if Dathan Arbach, the writer of Pen Pal, never wrote Pen Pal. That was his first story too. He wrote Footsteps, and then he went on from there. And so just think about all the great art that never would have been made if we didn't have like podcasts like Creepcast and communities like this to give people that extra push, or that first push, you know, that first push into trying something different, into, you know, putting themselves out there in that way. It's fucking cool, man. I love being a part of it. I hope to keep I hope to keep cataloging it. I hope to keep, I think that's the word I was looking for earlier. Maybe not. I hope to just keep being a part of it. Yeah, and slowly, like, what I'll say, and the conclusion I came to myself with is that if we were a YouTube channel with like millions of subscribers, and then all of a sudden just started reading creepypastas, I think that might be a little different. I think that is like, okay, like, why are you, you know, there's already the Creepcast podcast, but Creepcast wasn't even the first podcast to read, you know, internet horror. So it's not even like they're the first to the table, but Creepcast is obviously a podcast because it's about Isaiah and Hunter too, and it's just as much about their riffing and what they talk about outside of the stories as it is what reading the stories themselves. And so but the conclusion I kind of came to is like, it's not going to matter if I find the next pen pal and it has no upvotes, or, you know, the next Baraska, or some great, amazing horror story that over time it starts getting all these upvotes and attention and people love it, and the person ends up publishing a book, and, you know, they sell copies and whatever. And even if it's from the Creepcast subreddit and that person still hopes that it gets read on Creepcast one day, it's not going to matter. Like, in my opinion, like it's only going to help the story. And as long as you're not hurting the story, I think everything's fine, you know. Now, if you like made a video where you narrated it, right, and then all of a sudden you tried to go and copyright strike everybody else who read that story, or you were like, you know, you were reading stories without permission from the authors and stuff like that, you know, I think that's where things get a little dicier, and where then you should worry about, well, and what I am doing actually helping the community, or, you know, could it be hurting or like leeching off the community in some way? Because people do that. They ask to narrate stories, and it's AI narration, and they might credit the authors, but it's an AI narrator who narrates the story, and or some that even like straight up plagiarize or change the stories without the author's permission, and then they just fucking count their views on their monetized YouTube channel. And so there's plenty of leeches and shit out there, but if you're doing it in good faith and like, you know, just trying to help highlight stories, then I don't see any reason why it's even a big deal, even if we do read a story that Creepcast eventually ends up reading at a later date. You know, that's something that ultimately is negligible to them. They have one of the top, you know, podcasts in the world, so it's not gonna hurt them, you know. That's just kind of how I started to look at it. I maybe didn't look at it that way at first, but the more I've kind of done this, the more I realize that it's better to help. It's better to help highlight stories just in general when they're new, and when, you know, maybe not a lot of eyeballs would get on them. It's best to just read them, you know, even if you're not making a video or whatever. Like, obviously it's best to read them. Are you just not going to read any stories from Tales from the Creep or any online horror because you're like, well, Creepcast might do a video of it one day? No, that's silly, you know. So yeah, that's kind of where I came to it. But I understand, as somebody who reads online horror and is part of the Creepcast community, kind of how you can feel that way, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's I think that's gonna do it for today. I hope that everybody has a good weekend and a Merry Christmas, and hopefully I will be back maybe sometime this week before Christmas, or more likely, you know, after Christmas. I want to come back slowly, and yeah, I wanna watch your video and chat about it if you have time. So hopefully we'll try to find a time to do that sometime after Christmas, but before the new year. Yeah, and that'll be it, folks. Thank you, friends and fiends, for watching / listening to the Red Death Mask stream. I appreciate you.